The Rude Awakening Tour podcast.
Seats, Spark Seats. Richard, it's really a pleasure to have you here on the podcast with me today. Thank you so much for taking the time to come here.
Thanks a lot, Mike, for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on the podcast. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Whereabouts are you? Whereabouts are you now today?
Well, that's a good question. I guess we'll address the elephant in the room. The sling on my shoulder. I just had major shoulder surgery on the 7th of August. I'm recovering from that. Being fully retired now from the Canadian Forces since 2015, I was medically released. Dealing with all the physical injuries that I've sustained through my time in the forces, and dealing with the mental health issues and so on and so forth. But the real reason that we're doing the podcast is for the Mefloquine toxicity issues that we're dealing with. And, with regards to progression, there's also regression that we've had. And, moving forward with that has been a real challenge throughout our lives. It's a day-to-day struggle. There's not one, I guess our days aren't the same as, and I don't like using the quote unquote normal, because nobody's really normal in society anymore. Let's face it. But for everyday people who've never taken Mefloquine and had adverse effects by it, they don't understand or know what our day-to-day is like. And our day-to-day is very, very different from what those people experience. So for example, the rage issues that I've suffered, the sleep deprivation that I go through, and I know you've gone through as well, vertigo, tinnitus, stomach issues, the list goes on. And those issues are not necessarily consistent.
Yep.
They're there, they're gone, they're back. Sometimes they last, sometimes they come in short spurts, sometimes they last for longer. The one real issue that I have that I suffer with 24/7 that I would say is the major one that I deal with is the tinnitus. It drives a man crazy at times.
Yeah. Do you have the noise canceling, the hearing aids that block?
I haven't got tinnitus? Hearing aids yet. And it's funny because my wife, Amber, God love her, she constantly says to me, you need hearing aids big time. I guess the ringing causes pitch differentiation, so I'm not picking up sometimes what she's saying.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I'm hearing words out of her mouth different per se than what she's saying because of the ringing is constant, and I'm not making out some of those pitches that she may be relaying in her vocal context, so I'm not picking it up. So then she'll look at me and she'll be like, "Did you not hear me?" And I'm like, "What did you say?" And if it was soft toned or a certain pitch, I won't pick it up.
Yeah.
So I should be stepping up to the plate and going to Veterans Affairs and getting some form of hearing test and hearing aids prescribed to me. Yes, absolutely. I've got to get around to it. The physical injuries I've been dealing with more so, and they've taken paramount. My back is really bad. My shoulders are bad. So, I mean, I've been battling those demons.
Well, even just to say, over supper we were talking, and the doctor said wasn't sure what was going on. You had 4 X-rays, 3 MRIs, a whole load of stuff, and they couldn't tell. And then he said the surgery would be 30 minutes or 40 minutes to 4 hours, and it was how long?
It was almost 4.5 hours. Yeah. Right. So it was really intense. And again, so I had no idea what the damage was, and the images didn't come back with anything blatant that the doctors could say, put their finger on, and that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Everything was under tissue. There was, bones that were kind of out of place or not necessarily where they should have been. Yeah. So he wasn't able to see certain things until he actually got in and started rooting around in there and was able to find all the damage. So I've got 3 full pages of surgical notes from the surgery.
They did all kinds of stuff.
They did.
Your clavicle, your rotator cuff.
That's right.
What was that?
Some tendons had to be
a hockey sock full of
exactly.
things the doctor did, eh?
That's right.
Yeah,
So and I mean, that shoulder injury, stemmed from 1999 when I was in a motor vehicle accident
Oh, no
serving in
way.
Kosovo. So both my shoulders sustained a traumatic blow from being rear-ended by a 10-ton truck. So I mean, that's where my back issue started, my shoulder injury started, and then over the years, humping rucksacks and being in the Army and a heavy-duty mechanic and shoulder press and starters and transmissions in the field and doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's just, they wear out. They just do. And then, not to mention, you're constantly competing in your physical fitness tests and doing chin-ups and the chin-up competitions and
Yeah.
all that good stuff, right? So
Yeah.
just did, and you soldiered
Pushed on and went through it, and
Exactly.
and you were still pushing on, moving through it, still had the movement, but you were in constant pain.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you stayed as far away from the opioids as possible because you didn't want to be tagged and you didn't want to be labeled. You didn't want to have that stigma stuck to you. People don't understand, like back in the time when we served, anyway, Jesus, I couldn't imagine the guys coming out of World War II or Korea or Vietnam days. Like, I mean, the stigmas that were stuck with some of them must have been just atrocious. But I mean, even for us in the 90s and 2000s, sick, lame, and lazy, or being called a malingerer or any of that stuff, like it was real. Like it happened.
and people had legitimate, really bad injuries, whether it's your back and stuff like that. And,
absolutely.
And still called a malingerer, still called whatever until, sorry, I didn't realize your back was broke.
That's right.
Like, that kind of stuff. Right?
Yeah. So, did it make us tougher, harder? Quite possibly. Did it leave us jaded to a certain degree? But I can tell you one thing, Mike, I wouldn't trade my years in the service for anything. My time serving with guys like yourself and the rest of the boys that I got to know from the 3rd Battalion, guys I knew from Service Battalion where I cut my teeth as a mechanic. A lot of those guys I'm still very close friends with. And they're my brothers. You're my brother, and that's my family, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. And that, how many years did you do in the 3rd?
I was probably one of the shortest guys to ever be at the 3rd.
Oh, yeah.
I got posted. It was a dream posting. I was granted the posting from CFJSR to the 3rd Battalion in 2006. I just got back from Afghanistan. They said, yeah, you're going to the 3rd. And I damn near did a backflip in the shop. I was like, oh my God, this is like the dream come true.
Yeah.
So I got there, and unfortunately my father passed away.
Yeah, sorry to hear.
So my mom at the time was 76. And believe it or not, my dad did everything for my mom. My mom was one of those wives that just basically made sure she kept the house clean and looked after her only son. And that was it. So dad did all the banking. Dad paid all the bills. He set everything up. He cooked. He did everything. He, like, literally everything. He drove everywhere. Mom didn't have a license, nothing.
Yeah.
So at 76, she didn't even know how to run a bank card. She had no idea what an ATM was. No joke.
Yeah.
She'd seen them, but she didn't know how to use it.
Yep.
So my dad passed away in September, and I had got posted in July. And by November of that year, my mom had attempted to commit suicide after my dad passed away. So when that happened, the 3rd Battalion chain of command, and I've told this story countless times, I don't think I ever served for a more solid, compelling leadership in my history. I served for some amazing leaders as a mechanic. Within the EME trade, there were some phenomenal leaders that I did serve for, but nothing compared to what I experienced at the 3rd Battalion.
Yeah.
Mark Campbell was the major of Atom Company.
Yeah.
And that man hand carried my posting request or my compassionate posting request from Adam Company up to the commanding officer's office, waited for the signature, then hand carried it over to the brigade commander's office. And I watched him do it. I watched him walk out of the building and walk across to the brigade commander's building where his office was.
Yeah.
I had never seen a major put that much effort in for a soldier in my entire life. Maybe once before.
Yeah.
Major Tom Davis was a REME major that I admire, and I still admire to this day.
Nice.
Well, I think he retired as a full colonel, but but to see Mark do that, at that time, Donnie Colomb was our warrant officer. And Donnie, I mean, he was the one that said, Rich, you're driving 3,200 kilometers a month to go look after your mom. Every second weekend, I was back and forth from Edmonton to Regina. So, they pushed it. And sure enough, the compassionate posting came in. I spent 11 months at the 3rd Battalion, and they got me to Saskatoon.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So I took over a maintenance position in Saskatoon as the one of the instructors for, I want to say 38 Service Battalion or 30, I think it was 38 Service Battalion in Saskatoon.
Yeah.
And I did about 11 months there. The position opened up in Regina, and I contacted my career manager, and he said, I'm going to send you down to Regina, and you can stay there and run it out. So I did. Yeah. And then I took my regular promotion and posting from Regina back out to Kingston, Ontario. My son wanted to go to either RMC or Queens, so that was the deciding factor, and that's how I ended up back in Kingston. And then 2011, my mom passed away, and that was kind of when the glass tube in the old cabbage kind of shattered. And 2013, I got diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. And 14, 15, I broke my back in 2010. Finally, I should rewind a little bit. In Regina, my L5 snapped in half, and that was it. So I had emergency surgery and had to learn how to walk again and all that good stuff. Way. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And then I requalified and ended up getting promoted to sergeant and posted out and made it to Kingston. And then I my career just went, see you later. That was it. The shoulder had to get off. My left one ended up getting operated on. Then my right knee, I had to have a second surgery on it. And I just said, okay, that's enough. It's time. So they medically released me in 2015. I ended up going to work for Veterans Affairs right after. Yeah. And I lasted 2.5 months with Veterans Affairs, and I put my resignation in. I thought, I seen some shit in the Canadian Forces that I thought was stressful beyond belief mentally, like the mental challenge. Yeah. The 2.5 months at VAC, I almost had a heart attack. The stress was through the roof. And it wasn't the stress of the soldiers or the veterans. That was the easy part. Yeah. It was dealing with the bureaucracy and the computer systems that were archaic, outdated, just completely bastardized and slammed together 50,000 ways to Sunday. Yeah. And then trying to navigate all of that, it was just awful. So, and now I just have medical appointments up to 5 a week. And it's just one day at a time.
Yeah. So where are you originally from?
Regina, Saskatchewan.
Okay.
Yeah. I grew up in Regina. I was born in Montreal, Quebec, and then the family decided to leave. Mom and Dad decided to leave Montreal, and we were on our way to Vancouver, actually, to kind of
stopped short and went to Regina.
Car broke down in Regina.
Oh, yeah.
As the story goes, yeah.
That works, eh?
Yeah. So I was raised there, yeah.
Yeah, cool. I was just in Regina for the first Special Service Force reunion.
That's right. I saw pictures on Facebook.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. Saskatchewan is actually fairly because healthcare came out of Saskatchewan, I think, and also they were doing psychedelics in Weyburn, I think.
Oh, quite possible.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of interesting history about Saskatchewan, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There definitely is. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that was developed there and come out of Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I look back on my teen years. I probably should have paid more attention in school, right? But
Yeah.
I was too enthralled with hot rods and
Yeah.
girls and doing the teenage thing, right?
Yeah. So what year did you get in? What year
I
did
was
you
late
go?
bloomer, 1993.
93.
Yeah, we were the second last course through Cornwallis, 93.42.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Huh. So you got to experience that, thankfully.
I did the reserves for a short stint out of Dundurn, Saskatchewan.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 10th Field Artillery out of
Oh, no.
Regina.
Yeah.
So I did my reserve basic out of Dundurn. I actually just reconnected with one of my buddies from Dundurn. He was my fire team partner, if you will, when I was going through basic for the reserves in Dundurn.
Yeah.
Chad Bagera. Man, I laughed because I had always wondered where he had vanished off to or whatever happened to his life, because me and him were really close back then.
Yeah.
And man, we laughed and had great times. And I thought, geez, if this is what the real army's like, I want it, right?
Yeah.
John Devine.
Yeah.
He was one of our instructors. Warrant Officer Westacott.
I'm not sure.
He was with the 3rd out of when it
Okay.
was in BC.
Yeah.
I can't remember his first name now, but he was a hard charger from back in the day.
Yeah.
And then there was a Patricia Chief. He used to have 2 poodles on walking sticks, and he used to command these dogs. It was hilarious. But he was the RSM of the base in Dundurn.
Oh no.
And I mean, he'd walk these poodles and he'd command them to halt, and these dogs had 1-1-2 and they'd halt. Like, it was crazy to see them. Oh yeah, and he'd right wheel, and the outside dog would step out and the inside dog would step short, and they would turn the corner. Oh yeah, like these dogs were drilled. It was amazing, and they were poodles, right? So it was crazy.
Yeah.
So when I was going through Dundurn, it was 1991, I think. I want to go back to, and when I finally got the green light to go Reg Force in 93, I was all over it. I was like, I'm going.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I did,
even though ultimately it's our service that kind of screws us up. But, same thing for me. I would still do it all over again, because whatever you did is why you are the way you are right now.
100%.
Right. You'd be a different man if you never went in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I would have been stuck in Regina. I know I would have. I probably never would have left. I probably would have been. I mean, I was selling cars before I joined the military.
Oh,
right?
No way.
Yeah. So I probably would have been stuck in some form of sales, and I just knew I needed something more out of my life than that. So it was either going to be, like, in all honesty, I was when I was a little kid, it was either I was going to be, law enforcement or in the army. Like, that was just, you're like 5-6 years old and you're watching TV, and you either want to be a fireman or a cop or a soldier or something,
Yeah.
And I always gravitated towards the military. My dad got me in cadets when I was little. I was young enough. I was like 11 or 12, I think.
Nice.
And I was in the Artillery Cadet Corps in Regina.
Okay. Yeah.
And then, I packed that in, and then I joined the reserves, and then got out of that, and then went Reg Force. 23 and a half years later, it was like, hey, it's been a slice.
Yeah.
I would have been a lifer. I would have stayed forever. General Anderson. And what's kind of funny is, as my career was transitioning out, I ended up being posted to what they call the transition center now, but it was the IPSC when I got posted into their integrated personnel support center, which was the offshoot of JPSU, Joint Personnel Support Unit.
Yep.
And General Anderson had come down just before I was on my way out, and he was given some briefings and whatnot, and he was talking to us as the chains of command within the IPSC, and I was actually platoon sergeant within the IPSC.
Oh no!
Yeah, so as an ill and injured member, I was one of the platoon sergeants working in there. And I had said to him, I said, "Sir, is there any way you can retain me and just keep me at the IPSC?" I said, I don't need to go overseas. I don't need um, to give up my medical stuff. I can still do my job here, and I can still fulfill something and be a part of, of the big wheel. Like I can still do this, And he said, Richard, he goes, it's out of my control. He goes, because policy, and you have to see a specialist more than every 6 months. He says, you breach universality of service. So because of that caveat, universality of service, so many good men and women of the Canadian forces had to be released and sent on their way when they could have utilized us and kept us in. And that was the one thing that I was always jealous about the infantry. The infantry was always able to find a home for those soldiers and use them and work them and keep them within, case in point, Lauren Ford, for example, I mean, Lord, phenomenal cat. Like, I mean, I got all the time in the world for that man. Yeah. And the guy was a walking textbook of knowledge. I mean, anytime I ever needed anything to talk to Lauren or to get something from him with regards to anything do military wise or field craft or anything infantry, I mean, man, he was the go-to,
Yeah.
So I would have loved to have stayed in and been able to fulfill a position like that, or worked at the IPSC, working with the ill and injured. I felt I was the happiest.
You had a purpose in that
I did.
Place.
I did. Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. What year was it? You said the third helped you out to go to Regina. What year was that? 2000?
That would have been about 07, 08 time frame in that area. I think it was 07, I think.
Yeah, that's just to say. So my mom was diagnosed with cancer, or that she was terminal then in December of 2006. And they basically, I almost had like 2 months off, and I moved in with my mom, looked after her, and helped her until she passed.
Wow.
And that was all the third. They never called me. They never said nothing. It was like, when you're ready to come back, right?
That's right.
So even at, like, say, my mom passed away, and then I was still off for 2 more weeks. So, yeah, the third, the chain of command at that time obviously was very, really,
pro-family,
caring, and looking after the troops, knowing and promoting their welfare.
100%.
Yeah.
And I could go to my grave knowing that everybody that was in that chain of command, that was at the 3rd Battalion during that time that I was going through, one of the most difficult times of my life, they were the absolute rock that I needed. They were absolutely supportive, so supportive.
Yeah. And so many businesses or so many jobs would not, really give a care. Really,
no.
They want the job done. They don't care about nothing else.
That's right. Yeah. And in turn, the soldiers that served under that command at the 3rd, again, I can honestly say, I don't think I met one guy that wouldn't have bent over backwards to help me from that unit in that situation. Everybody was bang on. I had a great experience at that unit, like phenomenal.
Yeah. Same here. I spent 20 years, I think, almost.
Yeah.
Or 15, I think, at the 3rd. After we got disbanded, then
that's right.
Went and formed the parachute company, then reformed the 3rd, and that was in 96. I think they reformed the 3rd, and then in 2010 is when I left.
Okay.
And then I was medically released in 2016, so we're pretty close.
That's right.
Time frame wise, yeah.
Well, I was in Calgary when the Airborne got disbanded. And that was a huge blow. I mean, there was a whole handful of us that graduated Cornwallis, and we graduated trades training, and we all got posted to Calgary at the time. And we were all talking like, yeah, we want to put in for our jump course. Yeah, we want to be jumpers. We want to be, memo after memo after memo after memo, and denied. Like, as a vehicle tech, it was almost like I probably had a better chance of meeting the Pope than getting the jump course, right?
Yeah.
Out of the whole crew of us, only one guy, John Hardy, ended up getting his jump course. and he ended up, we went to Kosovo together. He ended up coming back. He got his jump course, and then he pop smoke. He got out. He's actually a police officer in Oregon.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He married a lady from the U.S. They're one of his teenage sweethearts, right? And phenomenal cat. Did the guy deserve the course? Absolutely. Hard charger, super fit. I mean, we all were back then, but John was probably about 10-15% a little faster and better shape than the rest of us, right?
Yeah.
And he got it. And we were all, some of us were jealous, of course, but we were happy for him.
Yeah.
And but I mean, even after that, it was still almost impossible. I think I got offered to be put on a jump course the same time that they offered me Afghanistan to go on the theater activation.
Yeah. That one's kind of an easy answer, right?
Exactly, right? So I was like, no, I'm going. I trained my whole career to do this, to go to war. Like, I'm not bypassing this. This is
you've practiced your whole military career, and when it's time to go overseas, now that's now you're in the game.
That's right.
Yeah. And who wants to train all the time and not,
exactly. And the best analogy I've given people is like, I'm going to take you at 20 years old, and I'm going to send you to be a plumber, and I'm going to teach you everything there is to know about plumbing for 20 years, but you're never going to touch a toilet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, so we're going to teach you how to be a soldier or an airman or naval personnel.
Yeah.
We're going to run you through all of this stuff, but you're never going to use it. You're never going to see it. You're never going to experience it. No.
Yeah. I'll pass.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I'll train and I'll use it.
No, like going overseas meant everything to everybody, right? Well, at least it did to me.
It did to me as well.
To say, right, when they say you got to take this drug or you're not coming home, or you're not going to go overseas, it's like, okay.
Well, yeah,
right?
we trusted the system.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly, 1,000%. I mean, there's no other way to describe this, okay? We load magazines with blank ammo on exercise.
Yeah.
We take the exact same service rifle that we would load ball live ammo in, the exact same one that we would point at an enemy, shoot and kill them. We load that with blank ammo, and we point that at our friends, our best friends, our brothers and sisters in arms on exercise.
Yeah.
And with some little adapter on the end of the barrel, which is pushing the gas back to reignite the action, that's the only difference. And we're pointing that firearm at that person pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
You want to talk about trust?
Yeah.
You build those bonds, you trust that person beside you day in, day out. So when the chain of command that you believe in wholeheartedly, call it brainwashing, call it what you will.
Yeah.
You believe in them wholeheartedly, like you believe in your parents telling you that the red crayon is red and the blue one is blue.
Yeah. Pretty good analogy.
Take this drug.
Yeah.
It's safe.
Yeah.
You can take this.
Yeah. Why would we think that they weren't looking after our best interests when, the medical system was there? Anything that happens, like during your time in the military, if you're out in the country, say you're in Afghanistan, you're going to, Masamgar or something, and you break down, they don't on the radio, when you're calling for recovery or to get for help, they don't say, well, sorry, Richard, we don't have anybody to send out to you right now, so you're going to have to wait out. We'll get to you in a week or two. Right? No, that doesn't happen. They say, okay, yeah, write it down. we're sending guys to you right away,
Exactly.
right? And especially if you're in a dangerous area, it's like boom, they're punching people out to get to you right away.
Yeah, you've got QRF that's deployed, and then you've got air. You've got air assets up in the air that are going, and you know that within a 2-hour window,
Yeah.
someone or something is going to be there to protect you or help you.
Yeah. Because nowhere along the way do they say, do you not say somebody's coming for me?
Right.
Right. Or that if I call for help, eventually they're coming, depending on the situation. But I mean, but now, so then we took the drug thinking it was all good because we're all on one big team, but they didn't seem to care too much, really, in some degrees, right?
No.
Just to say, to say people, especially from say 1992, say when the airborne deployed to Somalia, and probably even before that with the first troops that went to the Gulf War.
Yeah.
But and then all the way till 2003 because there was no other drug available, and they continued to force people to take the drug even though they were having prodromal symptoms, even though they were already having side effects.
Right.
So they were being involuntarily intoxicated, right, through the drug. So, when you look back at that, it kind of boggles your mind. Or to look, you look back. So people were hallucinating in Somalia. People hallucinated probably in Rwanda, Sierra Leone, all those places back in the 90s.
Yes.
And then we deployed to Afghanistan in 2001, and we're still given this drug that's causing hallucinations.
Exactly.
Right?
And in 1997, there was a report done and a news report stating that they knew in 1997 that Mefloquine was extremely toxic.
Yeah.
And that the Canadian government knew, and that the Canadian forces knew.
And then it's almost like bury it, move on. Nothing's wrong with the drug.
Well, it's the same thing over and over and over and over again, Mike.
Yeah.
It's called reinventing the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
This is the arch nemesis of any government, period. Any government-run organization, period.
Yeah.
So what is always happening is that you have a system that works, okay? A system that's tried, proven, and it works. It's effective. So if something's effective and it works, don't touch it.
Yeah.
It works. It's effective. It's proven. You can maybe manipulate it to make it a little bit smoother, maybe make it a little bit, user friendly, if you will, but do not change the system.
Yeah.
But here we have it. Every time that there's a leadership change, every time that there's a government position change, members of parliament change, it doesn't matter. Any level of government, it's the same bullshit.
Yeah.
Why? Because it has to boil down to egos. It has to boil down to some clown needing to have their name in lights, or needing to have their name show up at the top of a paper saying that, oh, look at this, Mr. Bloggins was the one that spearheaded this change.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you spearheaded that change, but what you also did is you caused and affect the livelihood of thousands of soldiers to either be maimed, injured seriously, or ultimately killed.
Yeah.
The blood on the hands of the Canadian government by issuing Mefloquine is absolutely disgusting beyond belief.
Yep.
These politicians should be absolutely 1000% ashamed, and how they sleep at night full well knowing what they did,
Yep.
blows my mind. That, my friend, right then and there is the sign of serious narcissism of the individual who not only signed off on it, but for those other minions that shut their mouths and turned a blind eye.
Yep.
And I guarantee you, those people know who they are.
Yep. Yep.
Dollars and cents. Malarone was only, what did they say? I think it was 24 cents more per tablet
Yep.
than Mefloquine
So it's going to cost you a whole $2 more a week
per soldier.
per soldier to have a drug that didn't cause all the side effects that Mefloquine caused.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if we were to be able to do autopsies on all the suicides since 1993 of all the Canadian Forces personnel who took Mefloquine,
Yeah.
boy,
I would say the percentage of people that took Mefloquine and committed suicide will be way higher than people that didn't take Mefloquine.
Absolutely.
And that's not to say completely that the suicide wasn't a result of some form of PTSD.
No,
But definitely that Mefloquine played a part in the fact that, say, even for myself, there's really not a single day that doesn't go by that I doesn't cross my mind to say I wish I wasn't here.
sure.
Right, every day.
Yeah.
And then every day on the days that it's harder, trying to find a reason or trying to find a way to keep going.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And
And that's our daily life.
Sure it is. And it's a vicious circle, to have to suffer with the thought processes that go on in one's mind from just the tours alone, just the garbage that we had to deal with overseas,
The shit you see, right? Because not everybody needs to see that.
the sounds, the smells,
Yeah.
and sorry for anybody who's watching this, trigger warning in advance, because like the shit's real. And the masses who are listening to this that don't have the expertise or the experiences overseas or know someone who's been a veteran that's gone overseas, that had the opportunity to listen to some of the stories or be around to hear some of the tales being told, you will die, whether you're 55 or 105.
Yeah.
And at 105, you will die with those images, those sounds, and those smells as fresh as the day they happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
You won't know what the hell you ate for breakfast that morning,
But you'll remember that.
but you'll damn well remember the screams and the sounds and the smells.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And that alone, right? So now we add Mefloquine toxicity to that.
Yeah.
Where it's a neurotoxin that is eroding the brainstem, and it's causing all kinds of different psychological, psychological,
right?
physiological damage.
Yep.
Let's throw that into the mix too, and roll the dice. Let's see how long this person. So
how long will he live after his service?
That was my $1 million statement. There is how long, and I mean, I think part of me there's a huge part of me, and I hope members of Parliament are watching this, but there's a huge part of me that wonders: is there somebody in Ottawa that's wondering, are they doing the tally?
Yeah.
How many vets are we going to lose this month so we can save that money from Veterans Affairs? Because that truly, as cold and as harsh and as callous as that sounds, that's truly what a lot of vets believe.
Yeah, true.
And that's a pretty ignorant way to live life.
Yeah, thinking that our government's only waiting for us to die.
Exactly.
So they don't have to help us. Right?
Yeah.
You, just to say, we were talking about how many people are on the mass tort. talking about, say, the first 8 or 10 people, the first 8 that were on the that came out that were filed. The first 8 were filed. Were at 10. Mine was filed at 10.3 million.
Sure.
Whatever. Other people higher, lower. But and then you wrap all that 3,500 people in, and we were saying you were.
I'm guesstimating maybe on the light side.
2,000. Yeah,
I was guesstimating at 2,000. I'm guesstimating financially on the light side, even billion 5 is what the payout's going to be.
You know, that money sounds like a lot of money until you look at how much money they just spent in the last 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Prior to a statement being made to say our veterans are asking for more money than we're willing to give.
Exactly.
Right. And then they turned around and poured the money out for everything else.
Well, and listen, bleeding hearts, if you will. Fine, I've got one. I've got a big bleeding heart. You know where my bleeding heart is? It's called Canada.
Yeah.
When I see a First Nations person crying on TV because A, they don't have clean drinking water, the reservations look like they've been pulled directly out of Serbo-Croatia timeframe, 1990-91 era.
Yep.
And the government has done zero to assist these people with the needs that they need, the daily living stuff. But yet they're handing over 8 to 10 billion to Ukraine.
Yeah, there's a good example, right?
I'm sorry.
We can't even look. We're not even looking after our own people, and we're giving money over there.
I can't even justify that. And I'm talking, and this is just common sense, okay? This is just common sense talk.
Yeah.
There's no rocket science involved in this. You don't have to be an economist. You don't have to be a political scientist. You don't have to be have a PhD or a master's in any type of logic or knowledge whatsoever.
Yeah.
When you're handing out $8 to $10 billion to Ukraine for a war that we have absolutely zero to do with, A, and B, you're collecting carbon tax from our citizens and doing absolutely zero with that money for the people of Canada?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. That stinks of scam. It really does. And that's common sense. It's black and white.
Yeah.
So
why are they taxing our people to give the money to the Ukraine? Right? Why are we at 45% tax and we're giving away more money to the Ukraine than to our own people?
Exactly. And our addiction rates have skyrocketed.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at East Hastings in Vancouver, that's a zombie land. I'm sorry, but those are not actual living people down there. Those are zombies whacked out on every form of illicit drug humanly possible.
That they've kind of made legal in BC.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the person that's responsible for that, and here again, people will disagree. Well, I'm sorry, but this is the ultimate, okay? And people need to start opening their eyes and understanding this.
Yeah.
The reality is, folks, the Prime Minister of Canada is ultimately responsible for the nation.
Yeah.
He is the chief of the country. He is the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
It's his cabinet and his caucus and his members of parliament that report back to him. In case you don't understand how that works, I'm not meaning you, Mike.
Yeah. No,
so now that we've got this all under control and you understand how that works, who is ultimately responsible for the country? The Prime Minister and the cabinet. And if the Prime Minister and the cabinet cannot afford to look after the people of this great nation, by doing the bare minimum and providing proper health care, looking after these people, creating addiction addiction facilities so that these people aren't still having the addictions, but getting the treatment to get off of the addicted to illicit drugs.
And take a bit of the strain off the healthcare system.
1,000%.
Yeah.
There's how much they could have done for social programs to benefit the people of this nation with $10 billion.
Yeah. I mean, so now the name of the place is I've forgotten it, but there's like a treatment center, or like a home for people with addictions. It's a place in Edmonton. So it's kind of like, they're still able, it's taking them off the street, right? Is basically what this place is for. They can, there's still, like, say if they're an alcoholic, they'll allow them, say, one beer every 2 hours or stuff like this, right?
Yep.
But the University of Alberta went and did a study at this facility. I think it's maybe 4 or 5 floors. I don't know how many people per thing, and it's more of a First Nations place. But say you or I could go there, or anybody can go there. They just have to be willing to go with some of the First Nations.
Sure.
With that being the kind of the background. But what they're saying is, by having these people in this place, and they're able to kind of look after them, and that is that it's actually saving, say, the city of Edmonton something like $2 million a year or more. It was a
substantial amount of money.
Substantial amount, because if you look at all the time the people, say homeless people, might be going to the shelter or things like that, right? Those things, that all adds up in the time and spent at the ER. So, that facility is made a big change, and they've been around for 10 years or so.
Right.
Yeah.
As long as we're doing something to help the citizens of this nation.
Yeah.
When you and I signed the dotted line, we didn't do it because of a paycheck. We did it because of something we wanted to provide greater. We wanted to give back. We wanted to do something to fulfill something that we needed to do.
Yeah.
I still remember when I went to Kosovo in 1999, it was funny because we were doing our psych evaluation, all that stuff. And I remember the Padre had asked me, he said, well, Corporal, he says, you're going to get some extra money. He says, are you looking forward to getting that extra money? And I looked at him, I said, Padre, I said, keep the money. He stopped. He looked at me. He said, pardon? I said, I'm not doing this for the money. He said, well, what are you doing it for? I said, well, I'm doing it for the nation. I'm doing it for my job. I'm doing it for the medal. Yeah. I'm doing it to be with the guys I serve with. Like,
I don't want to leave. I don't want to let them down.
I'm not.
I need to be there.
I'm not doing this for the dollars and cents. I said, sure, that's great. Thank you very much. But that's not the reason I joined the military.
Yeah.
I said, I joined the military because I wanted to do something more with my life. I wanted purpose, and this is purpose.
Yeah.
So if I have to go to another nation to stop bad people from coming to Canada to do bad things to our people, then that's what I'm here for. Right.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I believed we were doing in Afghanistan, right? Stopping the terrorists from coming to Canada and doing that. So, we need to have more investment into our social systems in our country to give back to our people.
Yeah.
And the government absolutely has to be responsible for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Taxpayers pay taxes.
Yeah. Maybe not send that 10 billion to the Ukraine.
No.
Right.
Start at
home.
Put
some programs at home. Put it into infrastructure. Put it into housing, because their immigration is out of control, and there's the housing availability of housing has gone down, and there's hardly any place for people to rent anymore. Like, especially, say, Halifax. I think they've had a lot of immigration in, and Nova Scotia, you can't hardly find a place, right? I think.
No, and it's no different. I live in Amherstview, Ontario. Okay. So we just had a battery plant that was given the green light by the Liberal government and all their cronies to create this $950 million infrastructure payout to build this battery plant. It's shut down now. So $950 million went to the wayside. Whose pockets got padded over that? Who's returning the cash?
What, did you shut it down? They didn't.
Construction stopped. It's over. It's done. So now what? Right?
Yeah. How much money did they throw away
Exactly.
in order to get to that place?
Right. So, and I'd be saying this regardless if it was the current government, the past government, the future government. I could care less which government it is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm about? I'm about holding you accountable.
Yeah, yeah.
So you've had the chair for 9 years, and this is factual evidence that is online that you can easily pull up.
Yeah.
They have spent, correction, the prime minister has spent more money in 9 years single-handedly than every prime minister in the history of Canada cumulatively.
Yeah, yeah.
That speaks volumes.
But yet veterans are asking for too much.
But veterans are asking for too much.
How do you go away as being the one that spent more money than all the other prime ministers combined,
put together,
and think that you've done a
a justice to the people who serve this country, who put their lives on the line,
justice to the taxpayer who just sent all that money away.
Exactly.
Right? At being taxed at 45%, so they can throw $950 million at a battery plant and stop it. So they can throw,
it goes on and on and on.
Here, there, and everywhere.
Look at the expenditures.
Yeah.
Look at the vacations, the money they spent on hotels. I mean, look at the Queen Elizabeth when she passed away, God rest her soul.
Yeah.
Look at how much money they spent on the funeral, the travel expenses. I can't remember. I think it was like $13,000 a night for a hotel in London.
Yeah. Right.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
They're so far past accountable now, they don't even care.
No, they don't.
Right.
And they're ignorant to it. Like, they're literally blatantly ignorant to it. And they talk circles. They don't listen. They don't care. And that's fine. You know what? They are going to be voted out 110%.
Yeah.
You know that. I know that. Everybody knows that. And so be it. I just wish that some judiciary lawyer or RCMP representative who, and if you're listening, remember, you had to stand in front of a Bible at one point in your early career.
Yeah.
Remember, there was your raising of the right hand, and you swore an oath to the crown and the country.
Yeah.
To protect and to provide justice.
Yeah.
So when you're reminiscing on your career and you may be in Ottawa and you're watching these politicians do this sort of stuff, I really hope you remember that oath, and it maybe kicks you in the ass and you say, you know what? I probably should exercise my right to uphold the law and enforce the law in these situations.
Because that's what I swore an oath for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, the Canadian people are watching you.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but as a citizen and as a veteran, I am absolutely disgusted and embarrassed. Yeah. I cannot believe we as the citizens of this nation have to sit back and watch this treachery going on and nobody being held accountable. Yeah. But anyways,
we may have the wrong system of a governance if that's what we're watching, right? Where they go unchecked, they do whatever the hell they want, and there's no repercussions to anything they do.
So this is probably a great segue, because that would be case in point, which reverts back to the history of the Mefloquine drug and being force-fed and railroaded through the system.
Yeah.
Because again, zero accountability. How far do we got to go back?
To look. Yeah.
Like, how far do we have to go back to look?
Mm.
Who was the one? Because somebody somewhere signed off on it
Yeah.
after 1997. And the reason I use 1997 as the miraculous time frame is because that's when W5 first did the episode.
I think that one was Fifth Estate.
Or Fifth Estate, sorry.
I think, yeah.
Right.
But I mean, and that's a very,
Compelling.
Yeah, but I mean, because they had the lady that was in charge of Health Canada resigned over the approval of Mefloquine.
Exactly.
Yeah. You would think that would send alarm bells out. Right?
Sure it would.
That they'd say, "Oh my God, what? We should look into this more," but they never.
So
they buried it.
There's always a reason. There is always a reason for why things happen.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we can look at anything in life, really. Why did the power go out?
Yeah.
Somebody flip a light switch. Did a transformer blow? Or did you not pay the power bill? Right? Yeah. There's reasons. So why was Mefloquine the drug of choice for Somalia and Afghanistan when there was other means available?
Yeah.
Safer.
Doxycycline was available the whole time during the trials of Mefloquine, during the development of Mefloquine.
Right. I mean, Africa, they won't even give it to their people. They will not. They use Mefloquine or Lariam as a last ditch effort.
Yeah.
In Africa. They are the breeding ground for malaria.
Yeah.
But yet they won't use it. They won't issue it. They won't give it to their people.
Yeah.
At any expense or at any cost. That speaks volumes.
Yeah. Right.
So the country that needs anti-malaria drugs the most
doesn't want Mefloquine.
Right.
Yeah. That's where you have to say, well, was the drug actually developed for its anti-malaria properties, or was it developed for something else?
And that's
why did they keep forcing a drug that came with all kinds of side effects that ended up, leading to a black box label in 2015 or whatever it was?
Yep.
Why did they push that drug? Why did they push that drug through a trial when there was doxycycline available the whole time? Right?
Exactly.
It makes you kind of wonder, right?
Sure it does.
And to say, the trial was held in Somalia with no government to speak of, run by warlords,
yep.
Right? And you sent nothing but special forces into Somalia to handle a humanitarian mission on Mefloquine.
Yeah.
Right. Well, for Canadians anyways, right?
Sure. Who was the prime minister back then? Do you remember?
No, when we deployed, Kim Campbell was in there. Either she got elected as we were going, or
because I was in Cornwallis. So I mean, I remember that because I was in Cornwallis when that happened, because we had
it might have been Mulrooney. No? Let me Google.
Was Chrétien not involved in that?
I know Chrétien was in 94 because we went for the 50th anniversary of D-Day and he was there.
Right, but did he not take over from Kim Campbell?
Yeah, that might be it. Let me look here.
Because I think that might have had something to do with this here.
I would say Mr. Prime Ministers of Canada.
Because I find it rather funny that nothing has come back after.
So John Turner was from 90 to, what's that, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So 90. He went to 93. Kim Campbell came in for 3 months or something.
That's right.
And then it was Brian Mulrooney, followed by Jean Chrétien, and then Paul Martin.
Okay, so Turner. I don't even remember that guy, really.
John Turner?
No. I mean, back then, nobody gave a crap about politics. Like, really, nobody cared.
No.
You know, like, honestly, I didn't, when I got to Cornwallis, I had to learn who the prime minister was, who the governor general was, who the premier was of Nova Scotia, who the mayor of Cornwallis was. Like, you had to know all these stupid names. And I was sitting there going, I don't know half these people because I didn't care.
Yeah.
Right. And then you had to know who the chief of defense staff was and the deputy chief of defense and the
Minister of
Commodore
Defense.
this. Yeah. Like, I mean, okay, great. It was interesting to know, but even after we left there, we got posted to our units and, like, Christ, I don't think anybody really even knew the name of the commanding officer of the unit for the first 6 months you were there. Like nobody knew any of that stuff. Nobody cared.
You're too busy trying to figure out what the hell you're doing all around the unit, right?
Exactly. I wanted to pull something up here and read it off to you. Where did it go here? So this was done I guess it was finalized in June of 2019. The effects of Mefloquine use among Canadian veterans. Report of the Standing Committee on Veterans Affairs. Did you ever read that one?
No, I haven't.
It's the House of Commons.
Excuse me.
It was 42nd Parliament, first session. And one name that stands out here, one of the other members of Parliament who participated in this standing committee, who I have a lot of respect for, is Michael Cooper. And Michael Cooper, who is one of the members of Parliament now, along with Larry Brock, are a couple of the guys that are spearheading the Ethics Commission that are actually fighting for Canadians to see accountability brought into the House of Commons so that politicians are held accountable for their shitty judgments, right?
Yeah.
Once I got this, I started reading into it here, and it was kind of a bit of an eye-opener. On the introduction, effects of Mefloquine use among Canadian veterans. The introduction: in September and early October of 2016, veterans of Canada's 1992-1993 mission to Somalia, as well as veterans from other deployments, including Afghanistan, made representations to the Canadian government, stating that they believed they were suffering from health problems due to Mefloquine, an anti-malarial drug they were required to take during their missions. The matter was then referred to the committee by the government, as it had just begun a study on mental health and suicide prevention among veterans. The committee decided to address the issue of Mefloquine. Sorry, my eyes are not the greatest. Yeah. Issue of Mefloquine as a theme of its study, and decided a chapter of its report to the subject. Having determined that the committee had not analyzed the research on the effects of this drug in enough depth, a new motion was passed on 1 November 2018 that the committee, in quotations, review the latest research and compare the experience of our allies, and that the testimony and report be limited to recognized medical, scientific, and research experts, including those of our allies. A dozen witnesses appeared before the committee between 29 April and 15 May 2019. This report is divided into 5 parts. The first part provides a historical review of the development and use of Mefloquine, as well as the overview of the research on its side effects. The second part reviews the key findings of the committee's 2016-2017 study on how Mefloquine became an issue within the Canadian Armed Forces and among veterans. The third part examines the key specific debate on mefloquine, that is the debate on the long-term risk of neuropsychiatric effects, given that the short-term risks have been identified and recognized by the scientific community. The fourth part describes what led the Canadian Armed Forces to considerably limit its use of mefloquine during deployments in malaria risk zones, and in 2017 to make the drug of last resort. The fifth part reviews the reasons that may or may not allow Veterans Affairs Canada to compensate veterans who claim that their long-term health problems were caused by mefloquine. First off, in September and early October of 2016 is when veterans had stepped up and made representations to the Canadian government. What I found to be rather shocking, and I'm one that could, you could say I've worn a tinfoil hat periodically in my time.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about medications and drugs, that leads one person to wonder, where do medications and drugs come from? Well, they come from medication and drug suppliers. Well, in December of 2017, the largest drug supplier in Canada, R.Schumann, and his wife, Honey, were brutally murdered in their own home in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Am I trying to correlate and connect dots? Maybe. I find it very, very close to the timeline.
Yep.
I find it very happenstance that in 2016, veterans step up to the plate, make representation to the Canadian government, and then all of a sudden, the owner of Ep.6 Industries, which is the largest pharmaceutical company in Canada,
Yep.
is found dead in his own home.
Yep. And if it wasn't linked, if there wasn't a link to him, then his uncle, you said.
Yeah. So then I started
that
looking
earlier.
into that. And what I found was he actually created Ep.6 Industries. Sorry.
No worries. While you're searching, I'll just mention to you. So I just went back to the Prime Minister.
Sure.
Right? So Brian Mulroney was from 84 to 93.
Yep.
So 25th of June, 93. Kim Campbell was 25th of June, 93 until 4th of November, 93.
Right.
She was then replaced by Jean Chrétien.
Jean Chrétien.
In November, 93, and he lasted until 12th of December, 2003.
Right. And I thought so. And I thought Chrétien had something to do with it.
And then, even you look then, it wasn't until in 2004 is when they came up, when the Canadian military then had three choices for an anti-malaria. They had Malarone, doxycycline, and mefloquine.
Right.
In 94. So that's under a new Prime Minister.
Sure.
Yeah.
And they could have easily chose Malarone or doxycycline.
Yep.
They could have
done it back in 90. They could have done it back in the 90s when they were looking for malaria, instead of doing a drug trial on a drug that had all kinds of side effects. Right.
So now, if you were to look into mefloquine side effects, I believe Africa actually has quite the documented history of mefloquine and the side effects that it's produced over the years.
Oh, no.
And its medical background dates back way prior to the early 90s. I mean, we're talking back in the 60s, 70s. Now, I don't know when mefloquine was actually first derived, but in the early stages of it, Africa would have been using it, and they would have been the paramount user of it.
Yeah.
So to touch base with the Barry Sherman and the Ep.6 pharmaceutical, he ended up acquiring, he purchased it under Empire Laboratories. So his uncle, Lewis Lloyd Winter, was the one that opened up Empire Laboratories. And Barry Sherman worked for his uncle. And then when his uncle had passed away, Barry Sherman had purchased Empire Laboratories and then in turn utilized Empire to create Apotex Industries and so on and so forth. And that's how it all went. But in
now, how long did his uncle have a history with the pharmaceutical company?
Empire Laboratories was incorporated 21st August 1959.
And they had over 100. Didn't you say they had 100 different types of?
Yeah, and they were. What's really unique is that they were notable for being the first Canadian generic pharmaceutical company that was legally permitted to package its generic medications exactly like its brand name counterparts. So, Mefloquine is the generic name. Lariam is
the brand.
Is the brand.
Yeah.
So anyways, we were talking about the Apotex and the Honey and Barry Sherman murders that, it just didn't sit well with me. I heard about it. I heard about a couple of the guys going to Ottawa to file, paperwork to have the government look into the Mefloquine. And then a year later or so, it came out that Honey and Barry were murdered, and it didn't sit right. So for the longest time, I was always in the back of my mind going, there's got to be a connection. Like this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So started, during COVID, right? Because what do you got to do besides nothing? You start Googling and looking and digging and watching videos. And I remember the Toronto police come out and they had this video footage of this man walking with a specific gait, if they would, And it was funny because anybody who's ever been military knows that you're either constantly focused on your right foot, because words of command are always called on the right.
Yeah.
So your gait would always lean more to the right because you would be constantly focused on the right foot, right? So, I mean, it's not rocket science. You can pick stuff up. You can figure it out.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're a police officer and you've ever been on parade, I think they call the words of command on the right foot as well, because it's drill and it's pretty common dog. So
yeah.
I don't understand why detectives wouldn't pick that up either, but I guess who am I, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, unfortunately, Barry and Honey passed away. His career, though, Sherman later recalled that his interest in business, and just an excerpt from a page that I found. Sherman later recalled that his interest in business as a career was peaked when he was age 10, when his father brought him to work at a zipper factory in downtown Toronto and gave Sherman some zippers to count and box. He later wrote that his father was surprised at how well he did, filling more than would have done in the same time by any of his paid staff. He also recalled feeling insulted when his father recounted them. In 1967, after completing his PhD, Sherman purchased Empire Laboratories from the executor of the estate of Lewis Lloyd Winter and his wife, Beverly. The couple had died 17 days apart in November of 1965, leaving 4 orphaned young children: Paul Timothy, Jeffrey Andrew, Carrie Joel Dexter, and Dana Charles. Empire had been the first company to secure, you're sitting down, right?
Yeah.
Empire had been the first company to secure the compulsory rights to manufacture Hoffman LaRoche's Valium.
Hoffman LaRoche's Valium.
Yes.
Yeah.
Diazepam in Canada, and was one of the country's largest manufacturers of Pfizer's Vibramycin, doxycycline. Upjohn Company's Oronase tolbutamide. Sorry, my pharmaceutical language is limited.
Yeah.
And the dietary sweetener, saccharin. Winter's estate allowed Sherman to buy the majority stake in Empire and run it only on the condition that the 4 Winter children be allowed to work for the company when they reached 21, with the option to buy 5% stakes in the company 2 years later with 15-year royalties on 4 of its patented products. The agreement would be voided if Schumann sold Empire. That voiding happened in 1969. Schumann worked out a deal to swap shares with Empire's largest customer that put in control of the company. In 1970, he invested in an American firm, Barr Laboratories, with US-based partners, became its largest shareholder, and served as Barr's president. He would eventually control a third of Barr's stock. Barr won the first rights to manufacture generic versions of Eli Lilly's Prozac. Today, Barr is part of Teva Pharmaceutical Industries, the world's largest generic drug maker, following Teva's acquisition of Barr in 2008. January 1972, Sherman and Ulster Limited sold Empire to the Quebec-based Canadian operations of publicly traded International Chemical and Nuclear Corporation, ICN of California, for 57,000 shares. Valiant Pharmaceuticals, the transaction voided his arrangement with the Winter Estate. A year later, Sherman started Apotex with a few former Empire personnel. It was incorporated in 1974. This privately owned Sherman-controlled company claims to be Canada's largest domestic pharmaceutical manufacturer. Sherman also became involved with nutraceutical manufacturing and other businesses, founding National Institute of Nutrition with Richard Kashenberg. He later sold Nion to Schiff and continued on to Apotex. By 2016, Apotex employed over 10,000 people as one of Canada's largest drug manufacturers, with over 260 products selling in over 115 countries. Revenues were about $1.5 billion annually. So there's a connection between Hiram LaRoche and
Empire
and Apotex.
Yep.
So, I mean,
so you already have a connection now. And then how hard is it to say that for them making Mefloquine, or for them
were they involved in were they involved in facilitating the sale? Were they involved in facilitating lobbying? Were they involved in profit sharing? Were they padding pockets of politicians?
Who knows? At 1.5 billion a year, you probably got a fair. Well,
who knows?
Chance to do stuff
who knows
like
those answers? I mean, you can speculate all you want, but I mean, it's common sense. It's not rocket science. You can connect the dots. Yeah. Now, you can connect the dots. You can say, okay, A goes to B, B goes to C, but what's in between? That's the nitty-gritty that needs to be uncovered and disclosed. And unfortunately, the only people that are going to have those answers are going to be the federal government, who has to answer to this because now the mass tort lawsuit is underway.
Yep.
And there is a legal team that is demanding answers.
Yep.
And B, was it the owners of Apotex? Was it a handshake deal with Barry Sherman and his wife, Honey?
Yep.
And if it was, you may never get that answer now.
Yep.
Or if there was somebody else involved, right?
Yep.
So again, speculation, conspiracy, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's black and white. I just read it off of a webpage.
It's all the data can point you in that direction, which kind of means that's the direction it went, right?
Sure.
To say, well, no, we don't, no, it didn't go there. Yeah, but everything's pointing there, right? How do you dismiss it?
The old saying, if it looks like shit, smells like shit, and tastes like shit, I guarantee you it's probably shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And in a society where the internet is the most powerful tool we've ever had at our fingertips in the history of mankind,
Yep.
you know, the information's there. Use it.
Yep.
And we've had to use it to mitigate our issues with Mefloquine.
Yep.
If it wasn't for the internet, I wouldn't have known different ways to mitigate rage. I wouldn't have known different ways to mitigate the sleep problems that I've had. I wouldn't have known different ways to mitigate some of the overwhelming tinnitus effects, the vertigo, the stomach disorders, the diarrhea. Like it never ends.
Yeah. Yep.
It never ends.
When you're looking at 34 side effects, and the majority of people are probably between 28 and 32.
Yep.
Or the people that are, are aware of what their symptoms are and aware of maybe perhaps where it came from, they can say, yeah, I got 28 out of 34. I got 32 of 34, right? I'm around 30, I think.
I probably would come into I'm between 20 and 24, I guess.
Yeah. Which, right, if you were to say, hey, if you take this drug, that you're looking at 20 to 24 of the possible 34 side effects, what are the chances you'd ever take the drug?
Right. Yeah.
Right?
And I mean,
to say it's that dominant, or it causes that, that many side effects are dominant, right? And then for other people to say 30, 34, right? But say, so just going back a step, when was the first time you took Mefloquine?
2005. It was the only time I took it.
That was in Afghanistan?
That was leading up to Afghanistan. We loaded for, I believe, 2 weeks prior. 2, maybe 3 even. It was a long time ago. It was 2 or 3 weeks prior we loaded.
Yeah.
And then it was once a week while we were over there.
Yeah.
But I noticed side effects prior to even getting on the plane.
Yeah.
Like the dreams,
Yeah.
I noticed right away. I noticed
that's really an issue that I really want to talk to you about.
Sure. Sure. We can. Yeah. Yeah. The dreams were the worst. That damn near destroyed my life.
Well, I mean, we were both in the W5 guinea pig soldiers.
That's right. Yep.
Yourself, Romeo Dallaire, and then me.
Yep.
And yours was a very powerful story of your dream.
Yeah.
Or dreams, right? Want to elaborate on that a little bit for people that haven't seen the W5?
Yeah. Basically, the dream unfolded where I had taken, and again, this was in the dream, I had taken a service revolver or a service handgun from its holster, put it into my mouth. I chambered around, put it into my mouth, and squeezed the trigger. I recall vividly hearing the action, the sear taking up space, the firing pin moving forward. I could hear it all crystal clear. When the firing pin hit the round, I could hear the crack and then feel the tear of the back of my neck. I could hear it and feel it. It was like a ripping, like a tearing of tissue paper.
Yeah.
And I was standing in front of a mirror in this dream, and I opened my mouth, and I was able to literally take my finger and push it through the hole in the back of my neck into my mouth and wiggle my finger.
Oh, no.
As I'm looking through this. And I pulled my finger out, and as I'm looking through the hole in my mouth in the mirror, I'm seeing a farmer's field behind me with cattle grazing. And I'm like, oh my God, now they know I tried to attempt suicide. Like I'm going to be in trouble, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that dream haunts me. Not, I had to take EMDR for that.
That can be very effective, eh?
It was,
EMDR.
yeah. It really made a huge positive impact in my life to put that memory and that dream to rest. Um, I I lived with that thing being as vivid as you and I sitting here till almost 2020.
Yeah.
So better part of 15 years.
Was the EMDR the light bar, or was it the
I had tapping.
tapping and
It was
left and
actual
right?
physical tapping on my
Oh, okay.
knees, on my knees. Yeah. Yeah. I was seeing,
It's crazy how that works, though. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And it was phenomenal. And it was a game changer. Right. So it definitively put that and other dreams that I was dealing with and memories of those dreams that I was dealing with to a manageable level where I was able to kind of talk about them, but not really draw on them anymore or have the negative effects of rerunning it in 4K high definition in my brain anymore.
Yeah.
That was the worst because, yeah, I mean, some of the dreams I still get from Mefloquine or the toxicity.
Yeah.
They are as real as real can get. The last one I had was probably about a year ago. Maybe 8 months ago, I guess. 8 months to a year ago, I guess. I can't really remember. They're so vivid that when I wake up, I have sand in my mouth. I'm convinced there's sand in my mouth.
No way.
So when I wake up, I've got to go to the bathroom and I'm hacking and I'm spitting into the toilet, but there's nothing there. It's just spit, but I can taste the sand. I can feel the grit.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So I'll grab a glass of water, take a sip, swish it around, spit, and I'm expecting, mud or sand to come out of it. There's nothing.
Huh.
And that's how vivid these dreams are.
Yeah.
I can smell the sweat or I can smell the blood still in my nostrils, but it's not there. Like
Yeah.
that never happened. It was a dream. It was all a dream. But these things are so vivid and so wild and so
Real.
real.
Yeah.
It's like it's actually happened. It's like it's actually really happening.
Yeah.
So
I spoke with somebody a few weeks ago, and that was their biggest thing. They said the dreams were so real, it was hard to differentiate whether it actually happened or it was a dream.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had talked to a counselor once and I discussed some of the dreams that I had experienced. And the counselor was like, were those dreams? Because you're describing these things as being very detailed and you're explaining some pretty extreme scenarios. And I'm like, yeah, it was a dream. Are you sure it was a dream? Yeah, I'm 110% sure it was a dream. Well, how do you know it was a dream? And then all of a sudden it's the mind game that you play with yourself. And I'm going, wait, what was it?
Or was it real?
Or was it real? I know it wasn't.
Yeah.
I know it was a dream because of the area I was in and I was nowhere near water.
Yeah.
Right. So in this specific dream, I had explained to this counselor, it involved a submarine. There was no water. Right. So I had said to the counselor, I said, look, there was no chance because I was in Afghanistan when this dream was happening. And it had to do with a submarine. And they were like, that makes sense. Right? So it couldn't have happened, right? But the details, I guess I probably should have Googled some of the things I seen in that dream, because maybe I served on a submarine in a past life or something, because that stuff was so vivid and so real. It was unbelievable, but, you can't shake it.
Yep.
And the other side of the coin is you don't know when these things are coming. So I could go to bed tonight. I pray to God that I don't have a dream or a dream, because they're not the same anymore. Yeah. They'll pick and choose what they want when they want. They have a very generic theme though. It all revolves around sand. It's all around Afghanistan or some part of the world. That's where the majority of these dreams are getting their gist from.
Yeah.
I remember going over, and prior to leaving, my dreams were not Afghanistan related, but they were more sexual related.
Yeah.
On the loading phase. Well, Jesus, Murphy, like, how do you explain to your wife when you wake up and there's been an accident, right?
Yeah.
So you can't, it's not only embarrassing, but it's borderline, marriage destroying, right?
Oh, completely.
Like,
that's what I would say. Completely with the drug is, if they had a list of how many marriages it destroyed, be through the roof.
Well, I can guarantee you, and trust me, I'm not blaming my marital breakdowns to Mefloquine. Did it have a huge part in it? 100%.
Yeah.
No doubt in my military and civilian mind.
Close.
Oh, definitely. There's something for sure that was part of that, right? But at the end of the day, the spouses, what they had to go through, not only my own, I couldn't imagine being in the bedrooms and the kitchens and living rooms of houses of other soldiers and veterans, men, women, like, and what my kids had to experience.
Yeah. And if you look, a lot of people that dreamt at night ended up waking up to choking their spouse, right?
Thank God I didn't have that.
Yeah. But I mean, there was enough issues of that,
yeah,
right? That it was mentioned, like say Clayton Matthew was choked Marge before he even went, I believe, right? And the amount of people I've heard tell me that, I woke up, I was choking my wife.
Right.
I woke up, I was choking my girlfriend.
That's right.
Enough to say that, it'd be interesting to know actually the percentage or how many people actually had that happen to them.
Sure.
Right? And, then it's not far to look then, that the drug caused homicidal and suicidal tendencies, right?
Yeah. Ideation. Absolutely. I mean, I know for a fact, and I mean, I'm not an abusive partner by any stretch, but I know for a fact, in my sleep during dreams, I've smacked my partners. I know that for a fact. Oh yeah. They've told me the next day, or they've woke up with a black eye or, blood crusted lip or something, where whether I smacked them or cranked them or punched them or whatever it was, but they knew I didn't mean it. They knew I was not a physically abusive spouse at all, ever. But during those dreams,
Yep. You're flailing.
flailing and you're going through the motions.
Yep.
So, I mean, Amber, God bless her. I think I've smacked her probably 2, 3, maybe 4 times in our relationship in the middle of the night. Right.
Yeah.
And she's told me the next day, she's like, honey, you realize last night you smacked me, right? I'm like, what? Are you okay? Like, I'm sorry, And she's like, yeah, you were dreaming.
Yeah.
I tried to kind of console you. And next thing you know, I got one across the head. Well, and you feel bad.
Yeah.
But you're so enthralled in that dream and you're so encompassed at that moment. Like, I mean, I'm sitting here looking at you and I'm telling you, I have no recollection of what physically my body is doing.
Yeah.
I can kind of maybe pull back a little bit of certain dreams that could, okay, yeah, I can see why my arms would have been going because of that specific dream. Sure.
Yep.
But Jesus, Murphy, like they take control of you.
Yep. Yep. Well, and Dr. Nevin called it a Jacob's ladder drug.
Yep.
I mean,
well, he's called
that wouldn't insinuate that you're yourself.
Horror movie and a pill.
Yeah, horror movie and a pill. Yep. Right. Just insanity that this drug was allowed to stay on the market for as long as it was.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And then that once again, then things like that makes you question, why was it still on the market? Why did they keep it on the market when they had all these things going on talking about the drug? Right. The 4 murders in Fort Bragg, North Carolina in 2003, I think it was. Right?
Yeah.
You had Staff Sergeant Bales in Afghanistan in 2012 going a killing spree.
The young soldier in Nova Scotia.
Yep. Lionel
Desmond,
And that one too, is 100%. I say it's Mefloquine, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that one bit. I feel sorry for the families. I really do. My kids, they saw the rage that I experienced. It took me 1 10-day in-house treatment facility to finally get a bit of a grip on that. Right.
Yeah.
Otherwise I was a lost cause, and it was equine therapy that actually pulled me together.
Yeah. Which one did you?
I went to the Forge in Quesnel, BC.
Yeah. That's with
it was Paul Nichols.
Yeah. Paul Nichols.
Yeah. Paul, I have all the time in the world for. I mean, theoretically, him and his wife, they saved my life, quite honestly, I could have gotten myself into so much friggin' trouble because of that, but I didn't. And the Lord's watching over me for sure.
Yeah. I same for me. It was equine therapy that brought me out.
Yep.
Like that kind of showed me there was a light at the end of the tunnel, because prior to that, it was like, nothing's ever going to get better.
No.
Right. Nothing. And then when I finally said, okay, I'm going to go to the horse therapy, I went to Can
Praxis. Yeah.
Right? And yeah, man, that would, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, because I'd still be sitting in the basement, or I'd still be, well, maybe I wouldn't even be here then. Right.
Yeah.
Because I think the second one I went on, I had just done an attempt.
Jesus.
So I think a week after I went to Can Praxis for like the phase 2.
Right.
But, that whole, like the Forge, Can Praxis, there's one in northern Saskatchewan. I forget what the name of that one is.
Yeah, I've heard of it too.
The 3 of them are all kind of tied in, but I mean, that was fantastic.
It was an amazing
really
experience.
Out, right?
Yeah, and the bonds I made with other people there,
Yeah.
Men and women with very similar situations,
Yeah, and Paul was in the Medak pocket.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of when their 30th anniversary was. Not this summer. I think it was last summer.
It was last summer, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. So I saw Paul. I dropped in on one of their little reunions,
Yep.
and I got to chat with Paul for a bit and some of the other guys that were there. And yeah.
He's living in Ontario now.
Oh no way! That's where he is.
Yeah. He's just down the road. He's near Trenton.
Oh, nice.
But yeah,
if you run into him, say hi for me.
I definitely will.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. I've got all the time in the world for him. Respect him like crazy. He's a good man.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah. So,
and then rode across Canada too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, and believe me, I mean, I would have given anything to be able to pick up and run and just travel, because I believe that there's a piece of that keeps the brain focused on something other than what's going on in here.
Yeah.
So for me, traveling is huge. I love traveling. Like, I'm passionate about it. So Amber and we are trying to make a life for winters in Florida, right?
Yeah.
So we bought an RV down there, and our travel down there was phenomenal. Like we enjoy that, the two of us.
Yeah.
And what I get out of it is the passion of seeing all the different sites and meeting all the different people and hearing all the stories and just being injected into the different cultures and lifestyle of all these different places throughout the US.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I love it. Right. So when I see you on your road trips, I'm like,
Yeah.
I wish I could be his co-pilot.
But it really makes a difference doing the road trips or just traveling. Right?
Yeah.
So your brain, your mind is constantly focused on the trip.
That's right.
Okay, I'm going to leave it tomorrow at 8. I'm going to try to make it to here, try to go there, so that way I can be there for Friday or whatever, right? So your mind has less time to focus inwards.
That's right.
And then start spinning because you're focused outwards and looking towards those markers to make it to here. Or, I'm going to go see Richard on Monday in Kingston, so I got to be there, so I'll leave, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And then it just keeps, so, just in my own, in the last year, because it didn't take me very long to stop, and then I would start spinning again. So then it would be like, okay, time to go on the road again. So, which kind of led to a rather busy year last year.
Oh yeah, you were.
Say with my new truck, in 13 months I got 165,000 kilometers.
That's crazy,
right?
But I get it.
Yeah. You get it, because you realize what the travel does, what those things do, and takes your mind off of you and points it outwards.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I was doing a lot of that too. Like, I was doing a lot of day tripping and that sort of thing. And I was on the road quite a bit for a few years there. And myself and Amber, we love to just day trip. Like, we'll just get in the vehicle and just go, right? Like, we'll pick a spot and just go, right? And not so much anymore. I mean, the cost of living is just ridiculous. Like, I mean, the price of diesel, dead honesty, should be no more than 25 cents a liter. That's the long and short of it.
How diesel as a byproduct.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah. That's what I'm getting at. So it should be no more than 25 cents a liter. So how people are paying $1.60 plus, they're being totally lied to and bent over. But anyways, so the other side of the coin with all of this is that we're definitely in a position where we can't do what needs to be done for ourselves, because we financially can't look after ourselves.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible. If we had to change our diets to follow a Mefloquine toxic friendly diet, so as to stop the gut rot and the diarrhea and the effects that we have with our digestive system, we would be, our food bills would be through the roof. If we had to cough up and pay for all the additional mental health treatments, or all the additional stuff to keep us, focused on different avenues of life, where we would have to pay to have that. There's no way we could afford it. It's impossible.
Yeah.
So yes, this mass tort lawsuit is directly correlated to trying to put some funding back into our pockets. So we've had to spend to get our lives on track, which was thrown off track by force to take this drug.
Yep. Yep.
It's cause and effect.
Yep. Yep. But completely. Right? They caused it. They gave us the drug, which caused all these problems for us to then try to manage our way out of it. And you know what? If they're not saying that Mefloquine is bad, then people aren't going to look there.
That's right.
Right? But other people that have experienced the same thing that say to you, I think it was Mefloquine. Then you look at it and you say, you know what? Yeah.
So in that House of Commons brief, I come across this this other anecdote I wanted to share with you as well that I kind of found rather humorous. And again, it's government talk.
Yeah.
So what else is new? So in the recommendations, recommendation 1, that Veterans Affairs Canada commit to recognizing the findings of the study conducted by the U.S. National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine, regardless whether they strengthen or weaken the hypothesis that there is a causal link between Mefloquine and certain long-term neuropsychiatric effects. Really? So the catchphrase here is certain long-term.
Yeah.
So that should the findings of the ad hoc committee of the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine on the long-term effects of Mefloquine justify it, Veterans Affairs Canada, together with the Department of National Defence, task an independent research organization with implementing a systematic screening program for military personnel and veterans who may be experiencing the long-term effects of Mefloquine.
That they definitely need, right? A screening process, because, to say, okay, my first question would be, if you attempted suicide, did you ever take Mefloquine?
Right.
No. Okay, then maybe it's PTSD. Yes, I took Mefloquine. Okay. Now we know probably what is your root cause, right?
Exactly. Here's an excerpt from one of the pages. VAC's current policy is that any mental health issue that comes to light during a deployment is considered attributable to military service. The recognition could be a considerable relief to veterans and their family members who may be dealing with long-term consequences associated with recognized short-term side effects of Mefloquine. Wait, what? Okay, recommendation 3. This'll really tickle you. Veterans Affairs Canada and the Department of National Defence recognize that certain known short-term side effects of Mefloquine could have led indirectly to permanent disabilities among certain veterans.
Yeah.
So it took a committee of a chair, 2 vice chairs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 members, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 other members, and the clerk of the committee to sit down and figure this out. And we wonder why nothing gets done in Parliament, why nothing gets done in the government.
Yeah.
You have this many people to sit, and out of all of these people, I would like to know, how many of them have actually taken the drug?
Yeah.
And if they haven't,
Why are they on it?
why haven't we done loads on them?
Yeah.
Furthermore, whoever the judiciary is that's sitting on this case and the opposing lawyers that are sitting on this case that's defending the Canadian government,
Yeah.
how about you guys take a load of Mefloquine?
Yeah.
And I'll let you guys take it for a grand total of 6 months, once a week, every week, for the entire duration.
Whether you're having side effects or not.
Or not. You just keep taking it.
Whether if you're having side effects, will continue to involuntarily intoxicate you with the drug.
Exactly.
Whether you like it or not.
You know, so here we have this absolute garbage study. Umpteen pages, 44 pages, I think it was. 44 pages on talking about Mefloquine and the history and who's this and who pushed it and where did it come from. Okay, fine, we know the history.
Yeah.
Let's cut to the chase. Who's accountable? And what are you going to do for the veterans that took it? I mean, there's civilians that took it too.
Yeah. Yeah. I forget the number. I think there was one study that Dr. Nevin put out. I think it was 2015, or it was an article in a paper or in a magazine that he had wrote, and it, now I think I've lost where I was at.
That's okay. It's called memory loss, and we're used to it.
Yeah. Where was it?
We were talking about the page, civilians taking it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I think in 2012 or 2014, in that time frame when it was written,
yeah,
he was saying that it was being prescribed somewhere around 400,000 a year, or 400,000 people had taken it that year.
Unbelievable.
Right? Of civilians. And even because there's all a similarity between all those anti-malaria drugs that contain quinine.
Right.
So the mefloquine, the chloroquine, the hydroxychloroquine, right? Yeah, and when you talk, how do civilians know? You know, they might at least know that they have a side effect because chances are they're not in a war zone.
Yep.
Where people are trying to kill them.
1,000%.
Right?
Yep.
So if they have paranoia, they might say, why do I have paranoia? I'm sitting on the beach drinking a Mai Tai.
Yeah.
Right. Where I'm thinking, okay, people are trying to kill me, but I'm in Afghanistan and they want to kill me.
That's right.
So, very hard. And just recently, a few days ago, I talked to an American lady from Pennsylvania, and just talking about her trying to find out what was causing her problem. Multiple doctors, multiple, tests, everything, couldn't come up with an answer. Some of the first doctors were probably on the right track, but wouldn't say it.
Right.
And then one doctor said, "Oh, it was hydroxychloroquine toxicity," right? Pinpointed it on that. And then we'll have a lot of the same side effects.
Sure.
Right, that we have.
Now, again, and I'm not a scientist or a pharmacologist or doctor by any stretch of the imagination. I've never ever once said I was. The human body is beyond impressive. I mean,
beyond amazing.
Yeah. Like, I mean, you can't fathom it. And doctors who have been doctors for, over 30 years still don't know all the aspects and ways that the body ticks, right?
Yeah.
Medications, they do certain things religiously. We know this.
Yeah.
We know that if you snort cocaine, you're going to be high as a kite, right? There you go.
Yeah.
We know if you take morphine, it's going to numb the pain. We know if you take uh, an antibiotic, it's going to cure an infection for the most part, right?
Yeah.
So there's knowns and there's unknowns, of course, with anything. When it comes to mefloquine, hydroxychloroquine, any of the quinine family of drugs,
Yeah.
if there's a purpose or a place for them, fair. I mean, if a child is dying and needs hydroxychloroquine because it's a catalyst for something, or it's something that's required to make this work,
Yeah.
fine. You're going to do what it takes to save that child, right? Or to
Yeah.
save that person's life.
Yeah.
But you're not, for any doctor that's out there who's just prescribing mefloquine or hydroxychloroquine or any of the quinines, full well knowing that there's massive side effects, and that is handing that stuff out like candy for shits and giggles,
Yeah.
you're part of the problem,
Yeah.
right? So 400,000 people may have been prescribed it off of a
Yeah.
planet of how many billion.
Yeah.
Yeah, there may be a purpose for it, but if it was just because the doctor thought that, yeah, it's probably a good idea,
Yeah.
you're an idiot.
Yeah.
There has to be, the checks and balances have to start coming.
Yeah.
These doctors have to start really putting the patient first and saying, look, somebody said to me the other day, which was kind of odd and mind numbing, the Hippocratic Oath isn't being used anymore in medicine.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I heard this. I think it was a video, a reel or something that was on YouTube. One of the podcasters was interviewing some guy, and the guy says, I can't remember if it was Joe Rogan or one of those guys, but anyways, it was a reel, like a clip, and the guy says, yeah, and doctors and physicians and surgeons, they all have to do this Hippocratic Oath thing, and Buddy was shaking his head, and he goes, that's been long gone, years ago. And the camera stopped and the jaws were open, and the one guy says, he goes, well, that explains everything. Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if that's the case,
Yeah.
where's our medical future going? Right.
Yeah. Not going in a good direction.
No,
Or not where, they turn to pharmaceuticals for everything.
that's right. Big pharma runs it all, right?
Yeah. And if you look, like, say, vestibular injuries, right? So damage being done to your cochlea or whatever
Yep.
it is, the hairs in your in your ear.
That's right.
Your
Yep.
inner ear or whatever. The majority of injuries to that is done by a drug. So a drug will cause the vertigo. There's a group of people they call wobblers, right? And they had a vestibular disturbance or whatever. They
Yeah.
took a drug, caused problems with their balance.
Yep.
And those people can barely walk 15 minutes, like staying upright, right? And I listened to an Audible book on this, and it was a Russian scientist, I think, that then started putting a thing on the tip of the tongue,
Yep.
which then sent a message to the brain. And if it was like a helmet and a thing that went on the tongue or whatever, and if they wore the helmet, each time they wore it longer, the effects would last longer.
Okay.
Like to mitigate the balance issues and stuff.
Yep.
It would be mitigated longer. So then, if they wore the helmet for an hour, they might get 2 weeks of being able to walk upright or not, not having the balance issues. So, I mean, you look at that, and so mefloquine, the vestibular disturbances,
Yep.
even, say I was talking to an American I went down to Sturgis, and I was talking to an American there, and he goes, yeah, that's why. I mean, he said for Mefloquine, they didn't want to be giving it to the air crews. There was a bit of problems at the start. They had given it to air crews, and then they had vestibular disturbances, and then they couldn't fly no more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I've read that too.
And they were, so air crews were never supposed to take it. And I talked to a helicopter pilot that was on Mefloquine for a year in Haiti. And he's like, yeah, but I took it for a year in Haiti. Right? And then for those people, man, you got to know they got to be, if you and I have problems with vertigo, stuff like that, can you imagine a pilot?
Oh my Lord.
Right? And then, therefore, if you put them on the drug and they have a side effect from the drug, they now have vertigo, and they now have,
well, their flying career is over.
Their career's over. You've now lost a pilot, whether an F-18, a Herc pilot, a C-17,
Yeah.
blah, 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 right? You just lost them now.
That's right.
You invested how much training into them, and you lost them because you gave them an anti-malaria drug.
Right. Which you knew, and it comes right back. And again, that's the biggest slap in the face. I wish it could be another way. I really do.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Yeah.
It's as black and white gets.
Yeah.
And for the amount of time that they're dragging their feet on this, it's not only insulting to the veteran community, it should be insulting to the Canadian populace as well.
Yeah.
I'm still gobsmacked that we're having to deal with this and still have to fight for this and still have to tolerate day after day. And this government just drags its feet and does it without a whim in the world. Like, they don't care.
Yeah.
Put the boots on your feet. And for these politicians that are in these positions, or these lawyers or judges that are having to deal with this, I hope they see this podcast, because I want them to know. Imagine if it was your son or daughter.
Yeah.
Imagine if it was your spouse that had this and was dealing with these episodes. How would you feel every day, full well knowing that the Canadian government deliberately poisoned your family?
Yeah.
And you have the ability, you have the sworn ability, by the oath you took, by the education you took, by the job you have, current, you have the ability to make a difference. You can't make it right. You can't fix this. It's broken.
Yeah.
But you can correct the path moving forward.
Yeah.
Do what is right and what needs to be done.
Yeah. For 5.5 years, this has gone through the court, right? When other countries have outright banned the drug, right? When in the States, Dr. Nevin is getting American soldiers 100% disability claim for Mefloquine toxicity. Right. All that is going on, and our government continues to fight and say, you're asking for too much.
Yeah.
Right.
And put more people on the streets, feed more addictions, pad the pockets of their friends, make sure that they're looked after for their pension for life, but could give two spits and a shit about the veterans who signed the dotted line, served this nation, put their own lives on the line.
Yeah.
They don't care. Well, I shouldn't say that. My member of parliament that I have in my riding, I cannot say enough positive about her. Shelby Cramp Newman, if you're watching this podcast, I can't thank you enough for your support within the veteran community, because she does fight for us. She does.
Yes.
She's amazing.
And she's from your area?
From the area that I'm in, yeah. And her office in Napanee was absolutely amazing to deal with. I don't think I've had a better positive experience dealing with a politician ever in my life. And I wasn't treated like, they talked to me like a human.
Yeah.
I wasn't spoken down to. I wasn't spoken up to. I was treated with respect. I was spoken to like I belonged. I felt important. I really did, you know. They didn't blow smoke up my ass. They didn't bullshit me. They didn't steer me in any directions. They were legit. Her team they were honest. They were upright, upfront, and honest, and they didn't bullshit me. So for that, I commend her and her team 1,000%. And I have to give credit for that, right?
Yeah. Because there's not many like that.
No,
right?
There really is.
Like that are really, say politicians that wear their heart on their sleeve.
Yep.
Or stuff like that, right? And I think it's important to mention when they are when they are doing that extra mile. You look at in Alberta, the MLA Peter Guthrie passed the motion 502. It was his motion going forward, and that was to look into the effects of Mefloquine in the military and the civilian side in Alberta.
Good.
Right, and that was in 2022, March of 2022. That passed in that motion passed.
So the more we have of these politicians, MPs, MLAs, whatever have you, whether it's current caucus or opposition, I don't care who it is, take the stand. Yeah. Do what's right. Start fighting for your people.
Yeah, stand with us.
Right. To stand back and watch everything unfold and go, well, I'm glad I'm not part of that. That means you're a coward. That's what that means. That means you're a coward. For those judiciaries, lawyers, law enforcement that are watching this stuff go on in the House, that have the ability to make change. I mean, we know because it's been blown through the media.
Yeah.
There's treasonous acts that have gone on in Parliament. I haven't seen one person arrested yet.
Yeah. And, to be honest, then, right, when they're doing that, when nothing is being done, it shows the general population that there's two groups of people in the country, right? Those that answer to the rules and those that don't.
That's right.
Right. And if you're going to eventually not answering to the rules will eventually not work out.
No, causes anarchy.
Because the people will eventually revolt and will have enough.
That's right. And it's unfortunate, but until something gives here, like these, the way, and I mean, it's not only in Canada, we're seeing it on a global level, right? And to sit back and just watch all of this stuff go on, you're just sitting there going, I can't believe I'm witnessing what I'm witnessing.
And that nobody's doing anything.
And nobody's doing anything. Yeah, everybody's watching. And again, and Amber, my wife, she's hilarious because she nails it. She's like, it's like watching an NFL football game. She said, or a CFL football game. Like you're picking sides.
Yeah.
We need to stop picking sides. We need to do
what's right.
We need to do what's right.
Yeah.
Just do what is right for the people.
Never mind your party.
For the people.
Never mind the thing. Do it for the people that you were voted in by.
Well, do it for the people, by the people.
Yeah.
Right. That's what this is about.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike, I really hope and pray that in the next little while coming forward that we we see some form of resolution to the mass tort lawsuit. I really hope that someone in Ottawa steps up to the plate and says, you know what, we need to finalize this and look after these troops, because what they did was wrong, and somebody gets held accountable, or a group gets held accountable. And however they want to hold those people, persons, organizations accountable, they do. I really, that's out of my control.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I don't want to see troops moving forward have to suffer like we did.
Yeah.
That right there is heartbreaking, just even the thought of it.
Yeah.
What you're doing with the Rude Awakening tour, I can't commend you enough. I cannot commend you enough. You've taken such a massive stand on this, and the courageousness that you've put forward. Mike, you've moved mountains. You really have when it comes to this.
Yeah.
And you should be extremely proud of yourself for what you've done. And I'm proud to know you. I'm proud to call you my friend and my brother.
Yeah.
And I only hope that I have a fifth of the courage you have, because what you're doing is unbelievable.
But to say most of it, I have it all because of the people I serve with incredible people, right? And I care when I hear the story. It kills me inside to know that people went through that, and then partially, in my I'm not really living my life for me anymore. I'm living it to help others, right?
I know.
And I don't care about anything. Spark and I, we don't, we're always on the road. We're never anywhere. And any friend of yours is a friend of mine, right?
Likewise.
And, just to look, that was 3 years ago when you asked me to check in on a friend of yours, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And no matter the circumstance, right, it was important. And I was blessed by getting to meet him.
Yeah. Yeah. Dan was he was an angel.
Yeah.
He really was. He was an angel on this planet. And we were so blessed to have gotten to know him.
Yeah. And I to sometimes, I don't know, to say, like, so he had stage 4 cancer, right? Was dying. And, I think when I met him, they had given him 6 months, somewhere around there, right? And thankfully, I think blessed for about 1.5 years of knowing him, right? And always hard trying to stop in sometimes because you're trying to get to another spot where you got to get there in daytime or whatever. But, I always think about him when I go fill up with gas in Moosomin, Saskatchewan, because then I think it was north. You go north to his town.
Yep.
And, I think the last time he actually asked me to pick him up some cigars.
Yeah.
Right. Some cigars, and I brought him some cannabis for the pain.
Yep.
Brought him some more because he wasn't really in the
system for that.
In the system for it. And, like he gave back to me. Like, sure. He bought a set of tires for my truck, right? Set of winter tires. Beautiful heart, beautiful soul, right? Once again, a 3rd Battalion guy.
Yeah.
Right. And, like my life was made better because you asked me to go see him.
Well, thank you.
Or if I could check in on him. And, I was lucky enough to meet him and to get to know him and stuff like that. Somebody else had asked me to check on a guy, and I never got the chance to get there in time to see him. Right.
Yeah.
And, but, once again, it goes back to that. Your friend is my friend.
That's right.
Your family, I'm family. And the only way to go ahead, the only way for us to get by is to help each other.
That's all we have.
Right? Yeah.
That's all we have left.
And unfortunately, a lot of times our families don't quite understand what we're going through.
No.
Right? But Dan will, right?
Yeah.
Or Mike will.
That's right.
The guys that you serve with, right?
Yeah, they get it.
And, they might have had hard times in the military like us, or,
Oh, yeah.
they might have been on the, all constantly in shit like us.
Yeah.
Right. But it's all about coming together and working together, right?
Sure it is.
Because once again, to go back to the thing of the Army or the military as a whole, when the vehicle breaks down, when you have an injury, when you have whatever, they're like, call sign 8,
Yep.
get to it, send somebody out there to recover that vehicle, send somebody out to recover the troops, send a medic, send a whatever,
Yeah.
right? They go. Nothing's asked. No. Well, you know what? I'm sorry. I have a dental on Friday. I can't come pick you up, Rich.
No.
So you're gonna have to fend for yourself. No. It doesn't work that way.
No.
It's now. It's solve the problem, fix it, and move on.
That's right.
Right. But the problem is when we get out,
we're still wired like that.
We're still wired like we expect everything to happen and everything to work. But now we're in the world where, hey, Mike, can you give me a ride to my dental? No, man,
I'm in Newfoundland.
I'm in Newfoundland. Well, maybe not so much. Maybe I'm a bad example, but I mean,
I know what you're saying.
More when you turn to somebody and ask them for help, a lot of times it's, sorry, I can't make it.
I know. Yeah.
I got to go here. I got to go there. I can't make time for you.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So then you're dealing with the issue yourself.
Yeah. 100%.
Which, in all honesty, in our healing, we have to start to rely on ourselves more.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're waiting for somebody to help you that's not gonna.
Right.
Or you're, you got to take the bull by the horns and get it done.
Well, the old saying, one man, one kit.
Yeah.
Like we've self-sustained our whole careers, right? Yeah. We had the buddy system. We had fire team partners, and we always had a team.
But it was still one man, one kit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I didn't rely on you to fix the bindings on my snowshoes. I did it myself, right? But when it came down to it, if I needed a hand moving, bins off the back of my heavy MRT.
Yeah.
Hey, Rude, can you give me a hand? No problem, Schumann. Over you came and away we went, right?
Yeah.
That's the way it was. I can't do that now. I go out I look out my front door and my neighbor's gone to work and my other neighbor's gone to work and his she's cleaning the house, or like, who you get, my wife's gone doing something, or like, who are you going to ask? Like, I'll figure it out. So what do I got? Well, I got a 2-wheel dolly. I got a 2-wheel dolly. I got a come along over here with a ratchet strap. I think if I wrap the ratchet strap around here, step on the dolly, put my weight into it, the thing's going to raise up. Once it's up, I can maybe kick that 2x4 underneath it and that'll hold it up. And then and then make it work.
Yeah. Come up with a plan that uses one person.
Exactly. Without killing yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the days of the team are
the days of we're coming. It'll be all solved here within the next 24 hours is gone out the window.
Yeah, gone.
Yeah, and that's true. I think that many of us remain in that mentality of thinking, well, you got to come get me.
Yeah,
I'm here on the side of the road and I can't sort my shit out and I can't drive right now. Can you come get me? No.
Yeah.
Right? Where are you?
Yeah.
Well, that's 5 hours away. Or that's whatever, right? I remember kind of when I first started, like in 2019, I was on the side of the road outside of Medicine Hat in the ditch, crying and screaming. I was trying to make a post about Mike Starker, right? Because it was close to his death, May 6th. And I couldn't get it. I couldn't post it. And it just,
Absolute
I
meltdown.
had a complete meltdown in the ditch, hoping somebody would stop and help me make my post. Right.
Yeah.
But, and then that's the other problem. Sometimes when we're broken like that, it's like the record keeps going around, still skipping.
Yep.
Over and over, because we're on this. No, I got to get this post done. It has to be done now. No, I have to load my truck up now because next Friday I'm leaving for New Brunswick hunting or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
We, you know,
It's borderline insanity.
yeah.
We're waiting for the solution when we're not doing anything. It's the same. It's the same revolution over and over and over and over again. Nobody's kicked the record player yet.
Yeah.
Nobody's lifted the arm, and we're waiting for this. We're waiting for this solution to come out of thin air.
Yeah, but it's still skipping
because we can't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
Our brains aren't wired that we're not wired the same as everybody else, right?
Yep, very much so. Right? It's like I know I'm on this record, and I know it's skipping, and I know like I got to break my cycle of thinking right now to get out of this, but I fucking can't.
I don't know how.
Yeah, and you're there, and mostly it only comes with time. It comes in an hour, or maybe we're smart enough and we medicate and we're able to start to come down, but we can be stuck in that record skipping for like hours.
Yeah, it was the one analogy I gave to a buddy of mine, it's like your brain is bricked. And people are like, well, what do you mean by bricked? And I'm like, well, it's bricked. Like, it's like a phone that's bricked. It's there. It can work, but it's not working. It's solid. All four sides, top, bottom. It's in this cage. It's in this brick building, but it can't send signals out. It can't get anything out. It can't do anything.
Yeah.
And you can't get in to fix it.
Yeah.
It's screaming, I need help.
Yeah.
But nobody can get in to fix it. Nobody can help it. Yeah. You can't help it because it's bricked. It's blocked.
Yeah, it's on the wrong frequency.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't have a sledgehammer. You can't knock that brick free. You're cemented in. And the only way to do it is, and the only way I've found was that, when you can finally get a grip of recognizing the triggers.
Yeah.
Right? Recognizing the triggers is to, at that point, be proactive and change direction as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, that next 15, 20 seconds is going to lock you up and you are going to be, pardon my French, fucked.
Yeah.
You aren't going to be able to get out of it. You'll be in that funk for days, possibly weeks.
Yeah.
So, and again, the whole toxicity demon itself, then that erodes on you, and it erodes hard. So yeah, like I said, the courage that you display and you doing what you're doing, it's showing us, the followers, it's showing us that, hey, it can be done. Yeah. We can survive this, and we can work with this.
Yeah.
Mike's doing it. We can take chapters out of or pages out of your book or chapters out of your book and follow that. And in turn, we're able to share on these podcasts like I'm doing with you and others have done. Yeah. We're able to share what works for us.
And things that might help, that can change, the one person that just found out they're fucked.
Yeah.
Right. I've got mefloquine poisoning. What does this all mean?
Yeah.
Right? How do I make things better?
Right.
And then, well, this is a good start.
Yep.
Right? Try this, try that.
Exactly.
Right? Try your diet, try exercise, do all these things, right?
Yeah. And exercise doesn't necessarily mean going to the gym and pounding out, 2 hours in the gym, being a weight monkey, right? Exercise could be just as simple as, cleaning your house,
Yeah.
up and down the stairs, doing laundry, getting in the backyard, pulling some weeds, getting physical with something.
Yeah.
That's a form of exercise, because too often than not, veterans all of a sudden say, oh, well, I'm not doing PT. Whoa, stop. There's no PT. Nobody's going to charge you if you don't show up at 0600, right? Or 0700, right? Just do some activity, some physical activity. That is a form of exercise. Now, if you want to take it to the next level and walk around the block or light jog or whatever, then perfect. That's on you.
Yeah.
But keeping the brain going in some form. So pick a hobby or hobbies. And unfortunately, mine is multiple. And do your best to succeed at something so that you gain some courage.
Yeah.
You gain some, the word I'm looking for, Jesus Christ, it's on the tip of my tongue. I just can't say it.
Self-care?
No. When you pump yourself up, your self-esteem, increase your self-esteem, right? Yeah. And your self-awareness and you're promoting that, right? Yeah. So it may be something as simple as doing a load of dishes. They've been sitting in the sink for a week. Do them. That's going to get your self-esteem going, because now you just accomplished something.
Yeah. No, the whole accomplishment thing. That's kind of what feeds my machine.
Yep.
Right. To say I just drove from, Ipperwash to Kingston.
Right.
I just drove 5.5 hours, made it here, accomplished something.
Exactly.
Right. And going back to cleaning the house and stuff like that, those are things that I started to do too, like
clean the truck.
Okay, Tuesdays and Thursdays I'm going to clean the house.
Yep.
Right? I'm going to sweep, mop, do like a thorough cleaning twice a week.
Right.
Or 3 times a week. Right? And then you finish it and you're saying, hey, I cleaned the house. And I see the difference.
That's right.
Things where you see the difference, that's the thing that gives me the most
gratitude.
And definitely cleaning a house, right? So, to have a dirty floor and now it's clean.
Yeah.
To physically see the difference.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Whether you're looking after a vehicle or a house or a trailer or RV, whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Whatever, you vacuumed it out, you did all this
stuff we took for granted.
Yeah.
Back when we were, quote unquote, with the little air quotations, healthy or healthier.
Yeah.
That shit that's real. Like that's something to write home about. It really is,
Yeah.
Taking the dog for a walk.
Yeah. And even to say I go on about this quite a bit now, but Martin Brousseau.
Yeah.
I was talking with him and I talked to him at Operation Pegasus Jump.
Okay.
Right. And I had a conversation with him and he was saying, so and helping people, right?
Yep.
So when we help people, we get that whatever adrenaline rush, or we get the endorphin, released, and we feel good.
We do,
right? Because we go and help people. But sometimes my idea of what you need and what you need are 2 different things.
That's right.
Now I can give you what I think you need. I can get my endorphin release, but you didn't get what you needed.
Right.
Right. So sometimes that's where it is, right? Because the people that are helping are eager to help and not necessarily listening.
That's right.
And I think that can be an important part. And I'm positive I've done that a few times myself, where I've done something and I'm like, yeah, that's what he needs. So I do it, and then it's like, well done, Mike. And then it's like, oh, maybe maybe it's not what he needed.
That's right. Yeah. No, and I've done it. I think I'm not thinking. I'm sure I've done that with my own kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a true story. You know, we do things because we feel the need to get self gratification of some form, right?
Yeah.
And helping people is a great form of self gratification.
And it is. I mean,
you're giving back.
You're not only am I giving to you, but you're actually giving back.
Right.
Right. In my endorphin release, or in my in your thanks or your praise or whatever, right? It's that's why really giving is under how would you say it?
Not underestimated. It's I know what you're saying.
Underappreciated.
Underappreciated. Yeah.
To
totally.
Actually be giving. Yeah.
And case in point, we need to do more in our society for one another as humans, you know,
just because,
because,
like, no strings attached. Can I help you?
Exactly.
Right.
And that's the beauty of life.
Yeah. And
it really is.
And it's really all about community.
Sure. Right? It is.
And it's about coming together, and helping each other out in a common goal of, making things better for
exactly.
Everybody. Yep.
It totally is.
It's like, to use this past weekend as an example, to go down and raise money to give a service dog to an individual, right? To see all the community come in.
Yep.
Give money to the silent auctions, to bid, to buy, burgers and stuff where the money's being donated, to all that stuff coming together that raises the money that gets the guy or the girl, the dog, and makes a difference in their life.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a community coming together.
Exactly.
That, right.
It's like the rolling barrage when it comes through Kingston. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And that's, it's things that are giving back. Right. And things that make a difference. And that's another thing that it's nice to see people that get involved and help. And, like, say, to have the big dinner here in the Legion.
Yeah.
The steak dinner, dance, blah, all that. And you come in and it's, it really makes a difference in everybody's life.
Sure, it
right?
does.
I mean,
and what does it take? Like, in all honesty, what does it take? It took a few organizers, a couple of months, a few meetings. You ran around town, you visited, you shook hands, you rubbed some elbows, you asked, and you never get unless you ask. Yeah. Remember that, right? Yeah. So you ask, you get, and you give back.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, the rolling barrage shows up and it's unfolding and everybody's having a great time and money's being raised and checks are being handed over and they're moving on to the next town. Yeah. And when you see what the rolling barrage does with the money and where it goes and how it's helping vets and first responders,
yeah.
Well, you feel good about that. Yeah. And you can say, you know what? I can get on board with this because it's doing something positive.
And even to say, right, coming from a person that's driven back and forth across the country
a gazillion
times in my trucks, once on the bike. But I mean, I travel all that time driving back and forth across the country, but it slowly became less of an accomplishment in my truck. But last year when I did the rolling barrage, on my bike with my service dog in a sidecar, I think she rode maybe 3 hours in the truck because it was pouring rain in Halifax or whatever. But, and then it's a challenge to get from the start to the finish.
Right.
It's a challenge because it's not a 1-day trip.
No.
It's a 19 or 21 day trip, right? And last year when I completed it, when we got to BC on our bikes, I was like, you know what? I really feel different inside.
Sure.
Like I really feel like something different because it's a really big, to me, it was a really big accomplishment.
Well,
And then
massive.
to say for those 19 days, for me, it was 19 days last year. In those 19 days, that isn't 19 days of sunshine,
No.
right? Like, in your mental and your, with all the problems that you have, right? You might actually had, say, 6 good days,
Right.
right? 5 okay days, and then
8.
maybe 8 bad days or whatever, right? But during the bad days, you kept pushing forward, right? Because you don't have an option. You got to keep moving or you're going to get left behind.
Yeah.
Right. And so even though you're yelling and screaming as you're walking through a field trying to calm down, like I did the one time in Saskatchewan, right? Trying to calm down and get back on track and being a little bit snarly with people. And then the next day you got through it.
Mm-hmm.
And you made it to the next stop.
Right.
And then when you combine those 19 days and then say, hey man, I traveled on my motorbike for 19 days across our country, 10,000 kilometers, and I did it.
Yeah.
And I got PTSD, and I've got Mefloquine poisoning, and I've got all these issues that tell me that I shouldn't do it.
Exactly.
Or that I can't do it. But I put my head down like I did when I was in.
Yeah.
And I completed it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's a, it's a beautiful thing to have for people to challenge themselves or to be able to do it. To see other people do it and then say, well, Mike's pretty messed up. If Mike can do it, I should be able to do it.
100%.
Right? Or to say, with as many challenges we have, but there's people there that are going to help you make it.
And there's people there that are actually, in some cases, worse than you. But it's not about the competition.
Yeah.
It's about the acceptance, the realization, and knowing full well everybody that's on that road with you is in some form of suffering.
Yeah.
Some form.
Yeah.
We don't know what.
Yeah.
But
and it doesn't have to be the same.
No.
We're all the different. It can be worse. It can be better. It can be whatever.
Whatever.
Right? It is what it is.
It's the bottom line is, and you're exactly right. It's doing it, right? It's doing it. And even if you can't do a full pull, if you physically can't do a full pull, there is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Being a part of the rolling barrage, to even just show up at the functions.
Yeah.
And to be there to meet people,
part of the camaraderie,
exactly, to be a part of the stops.
Yeah.
For people that have never ever been or ever experienced it, I strongly recommend you get on the website to therollingbarrage.com. You look at the dates for 2025. You look where you're located, and you either, if you can't jump on a bike or you jump in a cage, you register, you follow, or you just show up at the venue.
Yeah.
And you meet these fine
and support your brothers and
sisters.
sisters.
You meet these fine people. Well, I mean, even civilians, even somebody who's not military or first responder, show up, meet them, talk to them, shake their hand. You know what? Buy them a tank of gas.
Yeah.
Buy them a Tim's coffee. But meet these people. You have no idea what you're missing out.
Because a lot of those people that are traveling across the country have gone out for forest fires.
Yeah.
Have gone out for the floods. Have gone out for the ice storm. right?
Absolutely.
All these people have been there when it was worse for that area, that province, or that
That's right.
city, or whatever. They were there to help
Yeah,
your community.
that's right. So
You know,
it's just something simple, right? I mean, and that goes a long way.
yeah, yeah,
And before you know it, I mean, you become a rolling barrage junkie, if you will.
yeah,
You
yeah.
want to know where the next stops
Or
are, or
roadie,
roadie. Yeah,
yeah,
you want to be a part of it.
yeah. And also to say, if you're coming out, just to, coming out when the rolling barrage rolls into Okotoks, or
Yep.
rolls into, they didn't get to go to Jasper this year because of the fire,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But I mean, when they roll into there, go out and support it, because say I'm there, I'm there, part of the ride, and then there's all these people that are there to see the people on the ride.
That's right.
They're there to see me. They're there to see you, and by that builds up your self esteem,
Yep.
or it helps you thinking these people came out to see us, to be part of this, to support the ride. Like,
Yep.
people care.
That's right.
Right.
And the other side is bring your kids, your grandkids. Get the little ones out there and show them what support is for the military and the first responders. Have them holding the national flag and be a part of that.
Yeah.
That not only teaches them respect for the nation and the flag, but it teaches them, respect for these people who put their lives on the line, that do these jobs that majority
That
of
not everybody
society,
does.
the majority
Yeah,
of society won't do, right?
yeah.
So I mean, it's a great way to give back and gain some knowledge and some education and just be a part of something really cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It is cool. All the bikes. Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you? You got
I'm okay. I just wasn't sure what your sit rep was. We're sitting around 10:30 p.m.
okay.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny because it went by pretty quick.
It did.
Since our last break.
That's right.
Like, that's an hour 45, I think, since we stopped earlier. But I we can go for however long. But I mean, the one thing I do want to ask you then is, can you name a couple things that you're proud of, both on a personal level and on a professional level?
Yeah, personal. I'm proud of my kids. My son Nolan is living in Peterborough. He's working for Orkin. He's a pesticide guy, but he's doing very well for himself with that company. He bought his first house there a couple of years ago now. His longtime girlfriend, she's a nurse, they're doing good for themselves. And my daughter Chelsea, she's blossomed into quite the young lady. She turns 40 this year. She's been a city bus driver in Regina for, I guess, about 11, almost 12 years now. She's got 2 kids, so I'm a grandfather.
Nice.
And well, technically, let it be told, I'm a great grandfather. My grandson decided to have a child young age, but we won't discuss that right now. But anyways, I'm happy.
You're a great grandfather.
I'm happy for him. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so my daughter Chelsea, she actually got herself a farm. She bought herself a plot of land, and she's developing it, and she's doing this all on her own. And
Nice.
I'm very proud of her for taking the step and following her dream. It was something that she, as a child, was. She was always connected to that property where her mother grew up.
Yeah.
So she was very, very attached. And as she was growing up in her teens, she was always wanting to have a piece of land at the farm, at the family farm and stuff. And her aunt graciously sold her a plot of land. And so she's got her farm, and she's doing it. She's living her dream. So
well done.
Yeah, I'm really proud of her. So she's done well for herself there. I'm proud of my wife, Amber. She's overcome quite a bit. She's She's extremely smart, very, very talented woman. She's a private investigator, a paramedic.
That I didn't know.
Yeah, a paramedic. And she's also a PSW. And she's going to be working, moving forward, working for Airbnb, starting in middle of September.
Okay.
Doing some security stuff for them. So I mean, she's a well-rounded professional, and academically, she's a genius. So yeah, I'm very.
You scored.
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of her. She's a genius, actually, and I'm glad, because with all my medical stuff, her being a paramedic
helps a lot, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm proud of my family. I really am.
So, but more importantly, kind of, there was something very notable that just happened in the last few months.
Yes. Well, yeah, we.
So, kind of give us a rundown of how that panned out, because it's kind of
it's funny, yeah. So
it's very interesting.
I had proposed to Amber back in October of last year. It was our anniversary, and I took her out and gave her a ring, and she was pretty floored by it. It was good, and it was right around then that I had explained to you that I proposed to her and I was going to get married.
We stopped in, had a coffee visit.
It was in the fall, yeah.
Yeah.
So then we decided, one of our dogs had passed away in December, unfortunately. We were supposed to head to Florida in December to try doing this winters in the US, because the winters in Canada are killing me. With all my physical injuries, I can't take it anymore. It's too much. Yeah. So we went down to Florida. A very close friend of the family, and technically she's family, has a trailer in Wesley Chapel, just outside of Tampa. So we had gone down there, seen it, fell in love with it, and we bought the trailer literally right beside her. We got a smoking deal on it because it needed a bunch of work. And I knew with my limited abilities, I wasn't able to do, a lot, but I was going to give it a shot. So we get down there in January, and I start wrenching on this trailer, doing the renos as best as I could. Some of the stuff I had to job out because there was no way I was going to be able to attack it, like plumbing. That's not my forte. I couldn't do it. And what else did I farm out? Some roofing stuff, plumbing, and flooring. So, and as a matter of fact, the flooring guy goes by the name of Young Ike, out of Tampa area. I follow him on Facebook. He's an absolute genius when it comes to floors. My Lord. Anyways, so we're doing our thing in Tampa in January, or in Wesley Chapel in January. And I guess it would have been
towards the end of January.
Yeah, we're getting close to the end of January. Yeah, it was probably like, I don't know, the 20th or something. And I walk over, I finish up doing something, maybe letting paint dry or glue dry or something. I get back over to Connie's where was staying with her, and Connie and Amber were having a glass of wine or whatever. And they both got this Cheshire grin on their face, like, something's going on. And I'm kind of like, and I'm a little exhausted, and I'm a crack a beer. I'm like, what the fuck's going on over here? And they kind of look at me and they're kind of smirking, and Amber goes, so we were thinking, and I was like, oh, great, here we go. Thinking about what? So one thing leads to another. Connie's like, well, she's better talk to Amber. She's got a date in mind. I'm like, a date in mind? What the hell are you talking about? And Amber says, have you ever, 02242024? I'm like, what? Just like Google it. It's like the one day that's like never going to happen again for like umpteen years. It was like February 2nd or February 24th, 2024. I'm like, yeah, okay, what about it? And Amber says, Connie and Amber both look at me like, Amber wants to get married on 02242024. I'm like, are you fucked? We're like, it's like less than a month away, like plan a wedding and no, like really? And she's like, come on, it'll be fun. I'm like, Amber, we're in Wesley, there's no family. Like we haven't invited anybody. Just like, she goes, I know, like, let's do it, And like, I looked at Connie, and Connie's like, I'm game. I'm like, oh, for Christ. Yeah, fuck, whatever. You guys set it up. I'll just show up. So sure enough, Connie ended up getting her ordained minister papers online. Yeah. And Amber invited her mom, and then her stepdad couldn't come. And her mom invited her friend from Ottawa to take pictures. So we literally jumped in the truck on Saturday morning, hightailed it out to Fort Lauderdale, parked the truck, got our hotel rooms, went down to the mezzanine level, started drinking, looked at the watch, checked it out, said, okay, sunset's coming in. Let's go get changed. We went and got changed, walked out to the beach. 9 minutes later, we were married, walked back in and got shittered. It was a great time.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Nice.
Yeah. And the next day we drove back to Wesley Chapel. And the following Monday, her mom and her friend Anna flew back to Kingston. And Amber and I and Connie, we just stayed in Wesley Chapel and continued renovating the trailer, and we left in May. We stayed there till May, and we left first week of May. Come back to Canada, but I'll tell you, there's something to be said about living in Florida. It made a massive difference on my body. I had reduced my opioid intake by probably 70%. Even my like down there, because you can't bring cannabis across the border yet. So you can get cannabis down there legally. So I was purchasing it down there and using it, basically just CBD. And it was great. I was finding it extremely beneficial for not only my mental health, but for my physical health. Yeah. Because my physical health, I wasn't experiencing as much pain as I do in Canada. Mentally, I was feeling a lot sharper. Now, as far as the effects of the Mefloquine toxicity, that was still in effect. I was still having bowel issues. I was still having the tinnitus. I still had a couple of bouts with vertigo. The mood was still up and down. I wasn't totally even keeled. And I had lots to do. So anybody who knows me, I don't sit still for a very long time. I'm always doing something, right? Yeah. I'm constantly on the go doing something. Like with me being in this sling for 6 weeks, it's driving me batshit. Yeah. I'm going crazy.
So now you got to come up with things to do for one person with one arm.
Yeah. And there's things you can do for one person with one arm, but unfortunately I'm right-handed, and so that kind of blows out of the water. Yeah. So now I got to reinvent everything with 2 legs. Yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. But no, and believe it or not, when you lose your arm, your dominant arm, your left actually comes into play and picks up the pieces quite naturally. Like, I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. Able to manipulate forks and knives and spoons and stuff. And, bathroom stuff is you'd think it'd be, odd, and you'd be like, oh, this is going to be awkward. No, the first couple of times are a little weird, but you just adapt, and you adapt actually fairly quick. And it's surprising how the human body and the mind adapt and overcome to physical limitations like that. So well done, God. You made quite the system, But,
Yep. It's always nice to hear different ways things that help. And and taking the little things, right? The more little things you take care of, then the less that you're kind of being worn down during the day.
Absolutely.
And then to think, so by changing your environment to a more,
tropical,
-40 to be +10, +20, whatever.
It was in the +20s, yeah. But the salt in the air is what made the biggest difference. I mean, the salt in the air draws the inflammation out of your body naturally. The salt, like, you can taste the salt in your lips. It's crazy. Like, it makes a huge difference. I would have thought that it would have been the other way around because of the heat. I would have ballooned, I would have had more swelling, more inflammation. No, it worked opposite. I'm 100% convinced, being down in Florida with the salt in the air and the heat, man, I felt
So your physical health is not being worn down during the day.
Nope.
So therefore your mental health each day is at a higher level than what it would be
Absolutely.
if you're slowly being beaten down physically.
Yep.
Which then obviously negates to your mental health, because a lot of times people with a lot of pain and that are, are loose cannons, or they're
Mike, that's so true. So true. Like for me in um, the winter before last, like, I mean, I barely left the house.
yeah.
I like, it was awful. It was awful.
And then not to mention, sunshine is supposed to help you, right? The vitamin D and everything. And then, so now you're not even going outside in the wintertime.
No,
So then you're losing that benefit, which helps your mental health as well,
that's right.
right? So then you go down to Florida, you sit out in the heat, the sun, relax, and
Everything lifts.
everything goes up.
Everything goes up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was a win-win. So yeah, we it was a whirlwind. It was quite the trip. It was fun. I'd recommend it for anybody. Highly recommend it for anybody.
I'm looking definitely for March.
Yep.
February, March, possibly.
And by all means, man, if we are down there February, March, because you know what, I've come to this conclusion in life now. I don't plan that far ahead anymore. I can't. And I don't mean to be a dark cloud, but with the way things are and the way life has been and experiences that have gone on, you don't know, you know.
Yeah.
We don't know from today to tomorrow, and I'm blessed to have today. And if I open my eyes tomorrow, I've been given a gift.
Yeah.
And I will run tomorrow as hard and as long and as good as I can. And if I can open my eyes up the next day, perfect. So
Yeah.
what I'm getting at is I try not to make big plans going forward, but if I am down there, you will know about it, and you always have a place to come and visit.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Because to come down there and experience it,
Yeah.
man, it's a treat. It really is.
Yeah. And then just to say on the long-term planning, or, you saying on a short-term, because we never know
No,
what we're going to be going through next week, or we don't know what kind of shape we're going to be in next week as opposed to this week,
that's right.
both in your physical and your mental health.
Exactly.
Right.
Like we had talked about leaving beginning of October. Well, that's not happening. I got a surgeon appointment on the 15th of October now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So if I had made plans right then and there, that got shit canned.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why I said to Amber, I said, look, we'll just play it by ear, and when time comes that we can get away and we're good to go,
Yeah.
we'll do it.
Yeah.
And that window will come. It definitely will. We got the
Yeah.
trailer down there. It's not like it's going
You
anywhere.
all you gotta do is pack the car and drive away.
Exactly.
Right.
Unlock the door, turn the power on, we're on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So, and what better way? Well, for one, getting away from the minus 40,
Yep.
minus 30, shoveling snow or doing whatever, not getting out.
Even
Right.
at -5, it's killing me. Like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
arthritis in my body is it's rampant. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't take it anymore. It's too much.
Yeah. Well, I would have to say I definitely damn well hope I see you down in Florida this coming March.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And hopefully
How far is Tampa from
30
Daytona?
minutes. Oh, from Daytona.
Yeah.
Oh no, you're about 2 hours. No, wait, longer than that, 2.5. I think it's 2 hours to Orlando. And then from Orlando to Daytona, I think you're another hour, if I'm not mistaken. I think you're about 2.5 hours from
Yeah.
Tampa to Daytona, or 3 hours.
Yeah. What's 3 hours?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. Any last points? Any?
You would ask me,
Things you'd like
what
to
I was
see?
proud about my career. I think the proudest moment in my career was was serving with the guys like you, was being side by side with brothers overseas in those missions.
Yeah.
That, beyond anything else, I mean, that that will be the highlight of my career till, yeah. And like I said, if I could redo it, if I could snap my fingers, be healthy, put the uniform on and redo it all over again tomorrow, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here. Really, it defined us, right? It made us who we are.
Yep.
And all that. But yeah, it's, I was asked a question, yeah, where was that? Yesterday, maybe, or something. And the question was, if you could go back to an age, to any age, what age would you go back to? And my without almost hesitation, I said, I'd like to go back to when I was 23, just before or prior to going to Somalia. And so that I could then try to pay more attention to what went on.
Yeah.
Say, with my body and taking the drug type deal.
Yep.
Right? Or to go to a time before the drug affected my life.
Oh, 100%.
Right. So you can go back to that time, and it's then to see what it was like.
Yeah.
Before Mefloquine changed everything. Yeah. Right.
I think if I had to pick a year to go back to, and I mean, it's a double-edged sword because I probably wouldn't have had my kids, which I really would never want that to happen. But my father was a pilot in the German Air Force. And if there's one thing I could have always ever wanted to accomplish, was to become a pilot.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I think that would have been the change. I still would have served, but I would have been a pilot.
Yeah. Service is still there. Service is still in you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it would have been a pilot. If I could have changed anything and done anything different, that's
what did he fly?
I have no idea, actually. Before he died, he told me some stories and stuff, but he had explained to me that he was trained by the last remaining guys from the Luftwaffe in the Second World War, right?
Yeah.
So he got his jet qualification. I know that much. And he fled Germany in 1965. And I had asked him, I said, well, why did you flee Germany? He said, Richard, I was at the mess for a function one night. And he goes, I beat up the commanding officer really bad. I said, really? He goes, yeah, they were going to arrest me. He says, and I got the hell out of Dodge. I said, really? He says, yeah. So he ended up running, fled. He was AWOL. And my grandfather, I guess, helped him get over to Canada. So he ended up getting on a ship and took a ship from Germany to wherever, hopped on another boat into another boat, and he ended up at the port of Montreal.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Cool.
And my aunt was already was in Ottawa at the time. So that's why my dad wanted to get to Canada.
So where did your family more or less settle?
Regina.
Oh, Regina.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's where everybody.
Yeah. My dad met my mom in Montreal.
Okay. That's right. You were saying.
Yeah. So I was born in Montreal, and then Dad, like I said, he was offered a job in Vancouver, and that's a story for offline. But anyways, he was offered a job in Vancouver, and we were on our way, and the car broke down in Regina, and
that was it.
And that was it. Yeah.
Job.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because in 1976, the Queen and the Duke were in Regina for the Diamond Jubilee, I think is what it was, dinner. And my father was an illegal. He wasn't even a landed immigrant. He was a landed immigrant, I guess, in Canada, but he wasn't a Canadian citizen.
Yeah.
He served the Queen.
Oh, no.
As a German national.
Nice.
I got the letter at home from the Premier, Mr. Alan Blakeney at the time, thanking my father for his duty serving the Queen. And my mom was in the hospital at the time when this went down. And my dad ended up having a conversation with the Queen and the Duke because he was their head waiter at this function. And he was picked out of hundreds of maitre d's across Canada, and he was actually chosen.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So one thing led to another. She gave my dad the 2 crystal flutes that her and the Duke drank champagne out of, plus the imported roses from Italy that were flown in for the head table. Yeah. And she gave them to my dad to give to my mom in the hospital.
No way.
Yeah. It was pretty cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then then in 2003, for the 100th anniversary of the SIGs, Princess Anne came to the SIGs regiment. So we were all formed up and in our whites and everything. And she was coming around and meeting and greeting everybody.
Yeah.
And sure enough, she was talking to everybody, and she had come up, and I said, she had, I can't remember how she addressed me or what I had said. I just said, Your Highness, it's an honor to meet you. I said, I said, my father met your mother, and I said, I'm finally getting a chance to meet you. And she said, oh, isn't that special, or something along those lines?
Yeah.
She said, it's a pleasure to meet you too. And she kept on walking, right? I was wow, like, what are the odds?
Yeah. Very much so. Right? Thank you for always being there for me, right? Like being on the road, being able to call you, link up for coffee, getting together, and checking up on me.
Always.
When different places, wherever I am, right?
100%.
Watching and checking in on me. And I really appreciate you being there for me. And, it's made a difference because I'm here today.
Well, we're all in this together, brother.
Yeah.
So
it's a fight together.
Thank you.
Thank you. Love you, man.
I love you too, Mike.